tickets, TSA lines, but apparently there's something far more important, your travel attire. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, who once appeared naked in a video, doesn't want you wearing pajamas to the airport anymore. We'll open the lines to ask you, should there be a dress code at the airport? And how are you navigating the start of holiday travel season?
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then former Massachusetts Education Secretary Paul Reville joins us to discuss the Trump administration push for Harvard to open a trade school. Would you hire a Harvard-educated electrician? It's all ahead on BPR, GBH, and NEPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Venezuela is rejecting a U.S. plan to designate the country's president and several military officers as members of a foreign terrorist organization. The designation, made official today, comes amid a U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean Sea near Venezuela. Reporter John Otis has more.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio designated the so-called Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization for its alleged role in drug trafficking. The Trump administration says that the cartel is made up of high-ranking Venezuelan military officers and led by President Nicolás Maduro. The Venezuelan government is rejecting the designation today, calling it a, quote, ridiculous fabrication, and insisting that there's no such thing as the Cartel de los Soles. The terrorist designation comes as the U.S. has positioned warships and thousands of troops near the coast of Venezuela, raising expectations of a possible military strike inside the country. For NPR News, I'm John Otis.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the U.S. and Ukraine will continue work to modify a peace proposal that critics claim was far too favorable to Russia. Speaking to a crowd in Sweden, Zelensky said he'll continue to work for a solution that strengthens, not weakens, Ukraine.
Of course, we all continue working with partners, especially the United States, and look for compromises that strengthen, but not weaken us.
American, Ukrainian, Russian, and European negotiators have resumed peace talks today in Geneva. Tens of millions of Americans are expected to travel this Thanksgiving, mostly on the roads and highways, but many will be flying. NPR's Matt Bloom reports weather could be an issue for some travelers.
Severe storms are in the forecast in much of the Mississippi Valley through the start of the week. Airports in Dallas, Little Rock, and Kansas City could see delays due to heavy rainfall and winds. Come Tuesday, more rain is expected to spread from the Midwest to the East Coast and Southeast. Atlanta, Chicago, and New York airports could see impacts from those. Some wind-driven snow is possible in parts of the northern plains. By Wednesday, parts of the Great Lakes region are expected to see bands of lake-effect snow, which could make road travel difficult. Rain may linger ahead of the holiday through parts of the East Coast and Northeast. Matt Bloom, NPR News.
Stocks are trading higher on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow was up 301 points. The Nasdaq Composite up 473. The S&P 500 up 86 points. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The FAA says this Thanksgiving is expected to be the busiest travel time in some 15 years, as we just heard from our colleagues in Washington, with the peak travel time happening tomorrow, Tuesday, with more than 52,000 flights across the U.S. Air travel on Thanksgiving Day will be the slowest over the long weekend, with just over 26,000 flights. And if you are traveling by air, you better dress like you're going to a wedding. On the roads, AAA is expected over 73 million people to be driving to their Thanksgiving meal, with the heaviest anticipated day also tomorrow afternoon through early evening, and then again on Wednesday between mid-morning and late afternoon. Meanwhile, from Air Force One last year to a small Cape airplane this year. Former President Joe Biden and several members of his family have arrived on Nantucket. They arrived Saturday for their annual Thanksgiving trip to the island. Nantucket Current reports a small motorcade, including black Chevy Suburbans and state police cruisers, took the Bidens to Rabbit Run Road and the waterfront compound of private equity billionaire David Rubenstein, where they've stayed during previous visits. And if anyone is looking for Congressman Jim McGovern today, you'll have to join the annual March for Hunger in Western Mass that benefits the Food Bank of Western Mass. 2-day journey left on its 43-mile journey from Springfield to Greenfield at 7 o'clock this morning and will finish up tomorrow. 45 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Imaginable Futures, funding programs in the U.S. with the goal of ensuring young children and their parents get the education they need to thrive. Learn more at imaginablefutures.com. This is NPR.
Eastern Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be at the Boston Public Library tomorrow and Wednesday, but not there Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, or not there Friday because everybody has the day off. There's going to be a repeat of our show, I think, on Friday.
Not everybody. Not everybody.
Not everybody has
Most
a day off.
people have the day off.
Everybody here has a day off.
That is a very good point.
Okay. Hi, Jim.
Hello, Marjorie. How are you?
I'm better than you, as
it's
usual.
okay. It's fine. Government shutdown is over, which in theory means your Thanksgiving air travel should go off without a hitch, unless Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is watching and judging your outfit. He's out with his screed on airport etiquette. Number one on his list of travel pet peeves: what people wear. And he doesn't like pajamas.
Doesn't like pajamas. Don't wear
pajamas. He says you should dress up for everyone else's sake. And by the way, this is particularly nice from a guy who, if you go on YouTube, is dancing naked in a hotel room with a diaper on. That was Sean Duffy before he was the Secretary of Transportation. He looks good, by the way. He's a very fit guy.
Very fit guy.
His effort, and this is sort of rich, is dubbed a civility campaign to promote good behavior. Quote, let me just play a little sound. Forget me reading it. Here is Duffy describing what he calls the golden age of travel. Here it is.
Manners don't stop at the gate.
Nope.
Things aren't what they used to be. Some would call it the golden age of travel. Let's bring civility and manners back. Ask yourself, are you helping a pregnant woman put her bag in the overhead bin? Are you dressing with respect? Are you keeping control of your children? Are you saying thank you to your flight attendants and your pilots? Are you saying please and thank you in general? The golden age of travel begins.
Oh my God.
I cannot believe, by the way, that our staff screwed that up. They left off the most important part of the whole thing.
What's that?
Where he says, don't call the flight attendant Piggy. So, in any case, do you subscribe to the Duffy model of travel? I'm not done.
Okay.
Are you a diehard soft clothes travel? Sweatpants, hoodies, etc. Don't talk to me. I won't talk to you. And obviously, even more of you are driving. And you can call us with tips, fears, etc., about moving around on for Thanksgiving. 877-301-8970.
I mean, obviously he hasn't been on an airplane lately because it is like roller derby going on in the airplane now. I can't stand to fly anymore. You're packed in there like a bunch of sardines. Everybody's fighting over the overhead bins. Everybody's trying to screw everybody else out of the overhead bins. If they wanted to have a little civility, they should have a better way to put the overhead bins on, or not squish you into seats so nobody can move and put your seat back. And you know what really cracks me up?
No, I don't.
He's giving this big lecture about how everybody should behave better on the airplanes. At the same time, the Trump administration wants to roll back this proposal that would have forced airlines to compensate passengers when the airlines screwed up and caused significant travel disruptions for people.
It's not the Trump administration. It's him himself. Well, he is the one on behalf of the Trump administration.
Well, he's part of the Trump administration.
Doing it. And you know when he announced that thing? He was half naked when he did that. I'm sorry to obsess on this, but if you Google hotel room and Sean Duffy, he is dancing on the windowsill of a hotel room on the inside with sort of a half a diaper on. Kind of thing.
But one of the great pastimes for us in the year 2025 is watching videos on social media of on-air brawls.
Yeah, those are good. Dr. Dow, is that his guy's name?
Dr. Dow. Remember poor Dr. Dow? Yeah, he wouldn't give up his seat. This was a while ago now. This is the beginning. This is even before the pandemic, when everybody had terrible fights on air about masks and no masks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they told him he had to get out of his seat. He wouldn't get out of his seat. It was an overbooked flight. So they came in and they dragged him down the aisle.
I remember the video.
Seeing the pictures of him, Dr. Dow?
Sure.
He got a significant concussion, missing teeth, and a broken nose.
It's not justifying. He got a pretty big settlement, by the way.
Yes, well, he should have gotten
He should.
He got dragged down the aisle of the airplane. He didn't have to give up his seat. Did you know, by the way, that if you are the person that airplane etiquette says, if you're the person stuck in the middle seat, that you get both the armrests?
Well, that's the etiquette. It doesn't actually operate that way.
I didn't know that. And you know what? It's another big problem.
No, I don't.
That people are taking off their socks. They're going barefoot on the airplanes. I think
it's really grotesque.
I think there was a video of somebody. I think this was Duffy. Showed the video of people scrolling down the choices of movies and with their toes.
With their toes, yeah. With toes. Shows
the airline attendants. They have she's giving advice. This longtime airline attendant. She said, "Please, keep your socks on." And you know what else people aren't doing? Apparently, Jim.
No.
They're not flushing the John in the bathroom.
First of all, I read that. I refuse to believe that. I really refuse. Have you ever encountered that problem?
I almost never get on an airplane. I can't stand to fly. Like I said, it's like roller derby, and you're herded like cattle. I was at a train over the weekend. I went on the new Acela.
Yeah, how was that?
Very nice.
Okay, that's not what we're talking about. Actually, it might be what we're talking about.
Well, I mean,
can I talk about driving
travel,
for a minute?
You want civilized travel.
Let me talk about driving for a second, then we'll start taking calls. 877-301-8970. If I was listening to, I will say a news station this morning, not the news station.
Okay.
If I hear one more story about how the worst day to travel is Wednesday afternoon before Thanksgiving. Oh, thank you. I wasn't aware that the day before Thanksgiving. Don't come back Sunday unless you have to. Leave early if you can. I mean, have you had enough of this? Do you need that advice from people in the news media?
Listen,
this morning, that's all I heard nonstop.
I'm going a block and a half down the street. That's where I'm going. I'm no longer going to have to drive 6 hours one way to go to Connecticut. It was like a total nightmare every year. Okay, to get us in the mood.
You forgot one other thing about Sean Duffy, by the way, before we get in the mood.
Oh, he wants everybody to have children, many children.
If you have children and you get married, your state will get more federal transportation funding.
The more children you produce, the more transportation funding.
But when you're pregnant, do not wear sweatpants. That's the other thing he's saying.
Well, it's pajamas. He doesn't like pajamas. Now, I think in honor of this travel week, which is a very tense week for a lot of us, there's no better time to play the wrong week clip from Airplane, the oft-quoted refrain about the wrong week to do things from the 1980 comedy Airplane, which if you haven't seen, this is the week to watch it. Here it is.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. It's like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines. It's like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
No matter how many times we play that, both of us will be laughing.
And when he talks about the wrong week to quit sniffing glue, all of a sudden his hair stands straight up on the top of his head. That's Lloyd Bridges. Didn't Lloyd Bridges used to be a scuba diver or something? Sea Hunt.
Okay, let's take some calls. And by the way, while Marjorie is mostly talking about airplane travel because of the great Sean Duffy,
inhumane.
Secretary
it's
of Transportation, horrible. We're talking about all sorts of travel. And if you want to call us and give the same useless advice that you shouldn't drive on Wednesday or Sunday, feel free. We're willing to have you do that.
Amber started this off. All I have to say to that nitwit Duffy is that he'll have to pry my comfy sweatpants and sneakers from my cold, dead hands. Good for you, Amber.
Let's go to Nick in Hartford, Connecticut. You're first, Nick. Welcome. Hi.
Hey there. Okay, just to kick this off, I hate flying, and I hate it for all the reasons why this secretary is saying all of this stuff. I do think people are rude and desperate and inconsiderate, and
that's right.
It's gross. I hate it. And
they're driven to it, Nick. They're driven to it.
So that's what I was going to say, is that these are the same people that are shilling for companies making all sorts of outlandish health statements that are only benefiting companies that are going to really get rich off of people in gambling and medical debt.
That's right.
And now I got to hear from these people how to have etiquette after airlines have driven us to pay countless dollars just to bring a bag on. Like, I remember when I used to get food on a plane for free.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't happen. Like they've just made this awful capitalistic hellscape in the airport, and
That's
the only
right.
respite I have is getting an economist from a Hudson News.
That's right.
Excellent analysis,
You're flying
Nick.
coast to coast. You get a pretzel. You get a pretzel in Boston and hope it lasts you all the way to
Aren't
California.
you also nervous, Nick, when you do get the pretzel bag, which I actually like? I'm nervous when I ask if I can have a second one. And they cost about 12 cents each,
Yeah.
so you really should. Oh, Nick's gone. Nick, thank you for the call.
You know
We
what else?
appreciate it.
You know what else? I mean, you're a big world traveler.
I am a world traveler.
So I traveled
Not really.
over.
I hate flying now,
Well,
too.
I went to visit my kids when they were doing the semester abroad. You
Yeah,
know,
really?
once it was to Paris, once it was to Italy, once it was a different trip to Ireland.
Oh,
And
really?
every one of those airlines, Aer Lingus, Alitalia, Air France. You know what you get? You get wonderful food, and on Air France and Air Italia, you get free wine. We get pretzels.
Pretzels, yeah. And you get dragged down the. Do you know what they do? Sean Duffy has actually said that he hasn't released this yet. It's coming out
wrong
tomorrow.
step.
You can check a box if you prefer to be dragged down the aisle face down or face up, like Dr. Dow. I mean, do you believe this? You know, it's not a horrible idea to say people should treat each other decently, but whoever said it, you or the caller or something, when you are crushed into an environment,
it's
it's
horrible.
basically incentive to bad behavior.
It's
you
horrible.
know?
It's horrible. And the tension when people are lining up.
Tension.
And to get into their rows. You
It's
know,
horrible.
Section A, Section B. People cheat, of course, but then they get there because they want to put their overhead bags in.
Sure.
We should just.
Oh, can we talk about someone who's in the back of the plane?
That's what they do.
Putting their overhead bag
That's
above
right.
your thing. You know what I do? I throw that damn thing right out of there. Throw it right in. Really, I pull it out and I flip it towards the back
and
of
you
the
begin
plane.
an on-air brawl.
Really? Well, as you know, I wasn't right on air brawl in a
Jim,
transatlantic fight.
we have forgot to mention that. Jim was in an on-air brawl when he shoved his seat right into the little deck of this little tray table of this poor little kid that was about
That's not exactly
7
as
years
it
old.
happened. He was small, and he was the evildoer. It was not me.
He was the evil
He was
doer.
shoving his damn seat.
He's 2'7" and Jim is 6'5".
What is the name? Can you guys look up in there? What's the name of that product? It's for your knees, where you can jam
Knee
it into
Defender.
the knee defender. That
Knee
is
Defender.
brilliant.
That-
you
yep.
buy a knee defender. I don't know if
That's
they
right.
exist anymore. And the people in front of you cannot push back their seat, and you don't just have to use the knobby part of your knees to make it happen.
Well,
There's the knee defender.
One of the most popular on-air brawl scenes, apparently,
What's that?
is this of a woman who extended both of her arms
Yeah, I remember that.
to block the seat in front of her from reclining. She refused to let the person recline. And then an on-air brawl.
What's wrong with that?
I just can't imagine people fist fighting in the
You know that
aisle
woman
of
2
an
years
airplane.
later, she married Dr. Dowd. You know, they left his wife for that woman. They were so enamored of each other. The knee
Okay.
defender, the slogan is reclaim your precious airplane legroom. Thank you for that,
That's a big
colleagues.
deal. That's a big deal. And people are hostile towards service animals. They suspect they're not really service animals because, of course, they're not. And seat switching has become a big problem, too, when people ask to switch seats for the family to be together. So this one person, I guess he was...
You don't have to move, by the way.
You don't have to move.
No.
But this one guy is next to, and you can empathize, I mean, even though we all love children,
Sure.
he was next to a mother with a newborn and a toddler, and the toddler was already, out of control before they even got... So the guy in the aisle seat volunteered. He said, you want...
Oh, that's very nice.
I'll switch seats with your
that's
husband
very nice.
if you like. And so he was all excited to get away from her. But instead of switching seats with the husband just sent another kid back to the seat. So now he had the mother and 3 children right next
Do you
to
know
him.
what I did with a kid? Actually, I told you this. I haven't
Yep.
said this on the air. The kid who was in my seat, overhead rack. Right in the...
Velcroed
Right in the
him, right
overhead.
in.
By the way, since this makes Marjorie happy, here's the most famous line of them all from Airplane. Here it is.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I mean,
Okay.
okay, so we're childish. What can I tell you? Paul in New Hampshire, you are next. I think we're talking about travel during Thanksgiving. Hello there. Paul.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Paul.
say something, Paul. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing?
Excellent.
Can you hear
Thank
me?
Perfectly. Thank you.
Very good.
Good.
So I grew up in the 60s into 70s, about the time period when any excursion required that you get into a little suit coat, put on a tie. Mom and Dad were always dressed to the hilt.
That's right.
And right? You remember?
Yeah, fedora hat, the whole thing. Yep.
Exactly. And nowadays, it's downright embarrassing when you look at people. You just take a pause and take a look at the way people dress. And it's just no wonder. There's no pride. There's no idea in terms of how to carry yourself, how to conduct yourself.
How would you like,
make an effort.
Let's assume you were the Secretary of Transportation instead of the occasionally naked Sean Duffy. How would you recommend that people dress, Paul? How would you recommend?
Well, actually, I wouldn't even bother because it's more rudimentary than that. I think that it stems back to the way we are as a society. It's everywhere. You know, nobody takes pride in the way they look.
But Paul,
they don't take pride in the way they act.
Back in the olden days when everybody got dressed up to go on an airplane, it wasn't like a dog-eat-dog mad dash. You didn't have the overhead bins everybody's fighting over. You had people that helped you with your luggage.
You could fit in your
they had
seat.
these very gracious
we call them flight attendants.
They used to call them stewardesses then. It was a much, and they gave you food and they gave you drinks. It was a much more genteel way of flying. Now it's like you're shoved in like a cattle.
Right. No, and I agree. I think that my experience was it didn't matter whether you were flying or whether you were going out to the store or to a nice restaurant. You got dressed up. You put on, and it didn't have to be to the hilt, but it was at least you combed your hair, you brushed your teeth, you had a shine on your shoes.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you're lucky if people wear pants.
Well, at minimum, you should brush your teeth, especially if you're not wearing pants. You should brush your teeth. Paul, thank you, for an excellent call.
You should wear pants.
That was
no
like
question.
a throwback call.
But, you know,
it
was a throwback call. But, you know, when you see these movies of the 50s and 60s, you see these poor women, you know, they got these very fancy dresses on with a little belt at the waist, and they all weigh about 95 pounds. And they got, you know, the Trump spike heel thing going on, and they got hats and little purses, and they have to get that outfit on to go to the grocery store, put all their makeup on. I mean, really, you know, it's a little bit much.
And then you stay with one of those women, and you see the image of Trump molesting them on the plane. That's
well, he did molest somebody on an airplane.
That's my point exactly.
Yeah. Remember, he said he was like an octopus with his hands everywhere, all over her, all at once. Yeah, that was one of the first people we heard about.
Louise, in one of the great little towns or cities, actually, in New Hampshire, Portsmouth. Hi, Louise. Welcome.
Hey, glad to be able to talk to you about this.
Please.
Hey, I travel for work, and I have to fly pretty much every month, at least once a month, if not twice.
I'm sorry.
And it's horrible.
Horrible.
It's horrible.
Horrible.
The people in the airports that aren't watching their kids.
That's right.
It's a problem. People taking their shoes off. I don't want to see your dirty feet on a plane.
I'm with you.
Leave your shoes on.
No, I think it should be.
And the flushing of the toilet.
There you go.
The flushing of the toilet.
Yeah.
Every toilet on an airplane has a way to flush it. Sometimes it's hard to find it.
Yeah.
I understand that. But ask the flight attendant. If you can't find the little flusher thing, ask the flight attendant. Don't expect me to go in there and clean up after you.
Now, Louise, you made a good point. I said I've never encountered a non-flush situation, but you just reminded me when I was flying back from, I was in a wedding in France a couple of months ago for a weekend there. I couldn't find the handle. And do you really want the flight attendant walking into this little tiny space with you?
So you left it unflushed?
No, I eventually found it, but it was
keep
really stressful.
You keep looking till you find it, Jim.
Is that your advice, Louise? Just keep looking till you find it? Would you say?
That's what I've done. And I'm telling you, sometimes it's a challenge. It can be very difficult to find.
By the way, Louise, you sound like a very informed listener. You were probably not aware that you should not drive the day before Thanksgiving or on Sunday. Did you know that before you watched the news this morning? Did you know that?
Are you kidding me? Every
you.
time I hear it, I have to crack up.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to a friend's for Thanksgiving.
Oh, good.
I am driving the day of in the morning,
Yep.
and I'm coming home in the evening.
That's
And I
excellent.
probably won't hit very much traffic at all.
That is,
There you go, Louise. You got it figured out.
Planner.
There is
Thank
no
you.
question. Now,
Excellent.
Carol from Watertown
Thanks,
says
Louise.
she's a senior citizen. She's 75 years old, and she said she used to happily dress up to fly.
Sure.
Those were the days when we had free baggage check, plenty of legroom, a seat that reclined, and a full course meal served in our seat. Then airlines treated us like guests, not like cattle.
Do you recline, or do you ask the person behind you if it's okay to recline?
I ask.
You do?
I do.
And what if they say no, and there's a
No
lot
one
of
has
room?
ever said no.
What if they said no, and there's a lot of room? Do you just do it? Because that's my philosophy.
I'm sure it is.
If
Just shove it right
they're
back
really
there.
tall, you ask them to move. Or, no, you don't. I'm obviously kidding about that. But if they're really small and they say no, I think you got to assert yourself a little bit, is what I think.
By the way, we're talking a lot about a Beth Teitel piece about this. We
are?
No, that's the wrong piece. It wasn't Beth Teitel. She's talking about something later in the show.
Segment, that's right.
Wrong segment. Whoops.
Right day, wrong segment. Now we're ready for the holidays.
877-301-8970. Molly from West Newbury. Do you feel overwhelmed by the airport situation?
Well, my son flew in Friday night at midnight, and the line to get into the arrivals was all the way to Route 1. And I went up to departures. But my biggest fear is going down with the Stadies when you have to wait for somebody to come, and they attack you as they come up to your car and berate you. But
Can I interrupt for 1 second before you continue?
I think they're better.
I have had no one has had worse experiences at Terminal C than I have with the state cops.
Surprise.
However, I can't remember what happened, but something happened when they changed the troops out there. The last year at both Terminal, is it A, I think, and C, the state cops have been nothing but helpful. Have you noticed the change, Molly, or no?
Didn't Charlie Baker make a big deal about this? I think he was after we talked about this.
Have you noticed a change in behavior out there at Logan, or no?
I have not, but I do try and plan. Like I said, going to departures as opposed to arrivals was
brilliant,
was a blessing, and it really saved my life because patience is not my virtue.
Yeah, nor
but
am I.
traveling before the holiday, and we're actually having our Thanksgiving. My turkey's going in the oven now, and we're having it today. So
You're a
it's
genius. That is brilliant. That is enjoy Thanksgiving, Molly. Why isn't everybody doing that? That's brilliant. Have
Because lots of people
today.
have Fridays off, and that's makes it easier for them to travel. Okay, we are talking about a travel etiquette.
I think we've helped people quite a bit.
I think we have.
I think
we have more to come.
I know we do. It's
And
great.
we were inspired by Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who apparently was naked in a diaper on some website somewhere.
In a hotel room.
In a hotel
and
room.
then they posted on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's calling. He doesn't want any more people wearing pajamas at the airport. He's calling for civility this Thanksgiving. What do you think? I'm Marjorie Egan, Eastern Browdy, listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Mstyslav, congratulations. We really appreciate it. Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're live at the library tomorrow and Wednesday. And we're not at the library, obviously, on Thanksgiving or on Friday. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Thanksgiving travel, which I would have to admit is maybe the dullest, most overdone topic in the history
No. Someone
of
just
media.
texted and said it wasn't as bad as your daylight saving obsession.
Well, maybe it is. I mean, maybe that's a little worse. But this is pretty bad. But we're doing it anyway. We're focusing on Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's edict that you should dress up and be really nice to people. The really nice to people part I'm sort of into when you are flying. Now, Marjorie, because I feared that she was thinking I was making it up, what did I show you during the brief
You just
break?
showed me a picture of Sean Duffy dancing in the hotel room window with a diaper over his crotch.
Exactly. And he's actually, it's not accurate. He was wearing a diaper.
Oh,
he took it off, and then he has a little towel, and he's holding
it's a little towel
in front of his private parts.
Okay, all right. Well,
That's it. So we want to know.
that was when he was young and irresponsible, Jim.
He's
Before
a really
he married
very attractive
another,
man.
he's a very handsome guy.
Yeah, he's
Before
very
he married another reality TV star.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really did?
Yeah, she was on one of those reality TV shows with him, and she's also a gorgeous woman. I think they have like 7 or 9 or 12 children or something like that.
So we're talking about Thanksgiving travel. If you want to talk about air travel, which is what Transportation Secretary Duffy was talking about, fine. And if you want to talk about driving, and by the way, that woman, Molly, is that brilliant? She's having Thanksgiving today.
Right.
Turkey's going into the oven today.
Well, you could do that, but I think I'd feel bummed out sitting around on Thanksgiving without the turkey. I think I need to have it on the day. I couldn't do that.
You can order a Marjorie sandwich the day before at the library on Wednesday.
Here's a couple of texts. Bring back smoking and free martinis, and I'm in.
You know, a lot of you are not old enough for this. Marty and I are old enough. They had people smoking in the back of the airplane, thinking that it wasn't going to, because they're only smoking in the back, 8 rows or 7 rows? No effect on the rest of us. You couldn't breathe when you got off the damn airplane.
And all your clothes smelled like cigarette smoke. It's like you smelled like an ashtray for the next 3 days. And then this other person says that they're also fed up with airlines and flying. They're going to boycott. This person says, going to go by train or bus. Thinks that'll show them.
Train is the best. I mean, train is the
Trains
best.
are great.
Buses. Well, look, can we talk for just 10 seconds?
Buses, I'm not keen on buses.
I once took one of those cheap buses to New York City like a bunch of years ago. I'm raising my right hand. Someone had hibachi in the back row of the bus, and they were cooking like chicken legs or something.
You know what's the name of that bus? They were always going 90 miles an hour down the Turnpike.
Oh, right.
And the people would be on the bus calling the police and saying they have to come slow down.
You forget, which is on our old station, someone was on one of those buses.
Called us.
They called us. Because the bus driver was not listening to them when they were asking him to slow down. This is honest to God true story.
What was the name of the bus?
I can't remember it. Fung
Hua
Thank you,
bus.
John. Fung Hua bus. Someone was called us from a Fung Hua.
It was $7
saying, please
round
call
trip
Secretary Duffy or whoever the secretary was to get this bus to slow down. Let's go to Benita in, where are you? Danvers. Hi.
Hi, Benita.
That's a true story. Hello.
It's Benita from Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
Oh, Dartmouth. We're so sorry. Hi.
We love Dartmouth, Massachusetts.
Marjorie got a big award there once.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
a long time ago.
Well, they didn't mean it. Go ahead.
And I love you guys. But I have a real gross story experience.
Please share
We're ready.
it then.
We're ready.
So we're going from Boston, from Logan to Charlotte to get a flight to go to St. Martin. And we're sitting on the right side of the aisle, and this man comes in, and he sits across from us, our opposite aisle, 1 row up, and he has this jacket on, and he takes the jacket, and out comes this huge parrot, and there's crap all down his back.
That's
on
nice.
his arm.
That's a good story.
And he started complaining and saying, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, that is a service animal."
A service animal.
But don't laugh that it's a service animal.
My service parrot.
Yeah.
Parrot. So now they tell him that he has to do something about all the
I should
poop on
hope
his
so.
back.
Yeah.
Takes off his shirt and turns it inside out and puts it back.
That is the worst story.
Oh,
is that true, Benita, or not? Is that true?
Honest to God, it is.
Oh my God!
I mean, the smell was putrid.
It's nice.
And we went all way to Charlotte with this smell.
I'm really glad you shared that story with us. That was really upbeat. Thank you, Benita, for that. By the way, do you remember John Gruber from MIT?
The parrots came in here,
with his wife. They have African Greys, and they crapped all over the studio. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Listen to this from Earl in Marlborough. A few years ago, a guy sitting in front of me reclined his seat. I'm almost as tall as Jim, and I retaliated by turning the air blower and aiming it right on his head. It caused a nice stir in his head.
You know what you can do? You can do what's the guy's name, Earl?
Earl in Marlborough.
You just lean around and you press the button so the seat goes up. That's what I did with the little kid in front of me. That was really fun.
So the seat goes up.
Well, the seat went up. When you press the button, you have to shove the seat at the same time.
I didn't know that,
and then,
Jim.
Obviously, it's fairly straightforward.
Deplaning. Why do we call it deplaning? Why don't we just call it getting off the plane?
That's a really good question.
I don't know. Greg in Boston. Thank you for calling, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Tim and Marjorie, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I'm teeing off your discussion about the cramped seats and the no food and all of that.
Yes.
And I'm going to take a somewhat contrarian view to what you were saying. And I'm surprised at my contrarian view because I'm hardly typically the person who's going to take the side of big corporations and all of that. But my thought about this has always been that to some degree, it's market driven, right? People want to pay the cheapest possible price for their seat. And so they cram in more seats and they give less food and and the prices, are somewhat economical because of that. I'm very mindful. I don't know what corporate profits airlines are taking these days. My general sense is they're filing for bankruptcy half the time and they're not making tons of money. I'm sure the CEO makes way too much. But I'm curious, unless the corporations the airlines are taking out huge profits as a result of this, there's a benefit to shoving in more seats and giving less food in terms of the prices that people pay, and people are very price sensitive about airlines.
We're going to do.
You're
we can't
very nice
do it in
guy,
this segment.
Greg.
I don't think they're in the same sorry state with all the consolidation they were before. We're going to check, though, Greg. Thank you.
Taxpayers bailed out the airlines after 9/11.
That's what the whole 9/11 fund was.
Yeah,
it wasn't about helping
all
people
for
who
airlines.
lost loved ones. It was
so
airlines.
I think they can do right for the taxpayers, at least for the foreseeable future after getting rescued.
Greg is right to a degree. Oh, we're out of time. Greg, thanks for your first call. Call us again.
Okay. Coming up, we're going to talk with former Education Secretary Paul Reville about AI cheating. And Harvard former President Larry Summers, apparently he and his wife visited Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Island. Right back.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And UMass Lowell, ranked #1 best value public university in Massachusetts by the Wall Street Journal and U.S. News and World Report. Learn more at uml.edu/rankings.
And Bonsai Bar, hosting pop-up beginner bonsai workshops at breweries across New England. Hands-on classes provide guidance in the basics of bonsai design and care in a group setting. More at bonsaibar.com. And Classic Harbor Line, offering classic yacht cruises throughout the holiday season in Boston and New York City for families, date nights, and corporate gatherings. More at classicharborline.com. And Jose Mateo Ballet Theater, presenting The Nutcracker, bringing Clara's dream world to life with festive sets, sumptuous costumes, and spectacular dancing at the Strand Theater, December 6th through 21st. Ticket info at ballettheater.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBHN NEPM. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, live at the library tomorrow, Wednesday. Obviously, we're off Thursday and Friday. We hope you are too. Paul Reville, who just joined us, I'll introduce him in a second, already has added something important to the show. He walked in and said, which Marjorie was unaware of, traffic is really bad on Wednesday. Should avoid it if you can.
I'm always
Paul,
on top of things.
That's why you're the former Massachusetts Education Secretary.
Miss a trick.
Former Secretary of Education for Massachusetts. I said that already. And a professor at Harvard University's Graduate School of Education, who also runs the Ed Redesign Lab. Good to see you, Paul.
Thankful to be here.
Well, we're very that's right. This is the week to be thankful. We're thankful you are here as well. So I'm not sure what vocational education has to do with anti-Semitism, but apparently there's talk in the settlement that the Trump administration is making with Harvard that he wants them to open a Harvard University vocational school. What do you think?
$500 million.
It does seem like a bit of a reach. Harvard's already doing a lot of things having to do with vocational education and workforce development and, bringing the power of a university like Harvard, which has to do with research and understanding what's actually happening on the ground in terms of gathering evidence about changes in the workforce and so forth. I talked last week with some people from Rhode Island, who were involved to some degree in the Brown settlement.
Which included something around workforce and
the
vocational stuff.
$50 million at Brown, a tenth of what they're asking here. Yeah. It wasn't clear whether that was going to be spent on, supporting vocational education in Rhode Island, or it was actually going to be spent on Brown having to do something on its campus. So the details have not been released, obviously, because there is no settlement, and this isn't officially part of any settlement at this point. But, there's speculation. Obviously, if universities are forced to bend the knee and pay what amounts to extortion money, I'm in favor of career vocational tech education being a good beneficiary for that money. But it has nothing to do with what Harvard was originally brought to the table to discuss, which was anti-Semitism and so it's a bit bizarre and it's unsettled now. So we don't.
Well, especially since they could just save a step by the federal government putting more money into VOCAD that's already there. Right. We need more VOCAD schools, right? Yeah. Just put more money into it.
Putting aside the fraudulent nature, which we knew, but this is further proof of the anti-Semitism claims. Not to suggest there's not concern. There shouldn't be concerns about anti-Semitism on some campuses, but this proves how fraudulent it was on the part of the Trump administration. I love the idea. I don't like the federal government forcing the school to do it. I love the idea of the highest profile school maybe in the world doing a major thing on vocational education, because we talked to you a lot, and it's been your life, obviously, education, about the importance of VOCAD, the importance of that as an option. Right. And having Harvard highlight it, it seems to me could change the whole discussion and respect for it that should exist anyway, no?
It wouldn't be a bad thing, and there's a lot of talk about it, certainly in the education sector. We in the School of Education, are spending a lot of time focusing on school-to-career kinds of transitions, career pathways, starting in the early years of elementary and middle school that, begin to orient people, particularly now with the increasing cost of higher education. People are getting very job conscious about post-secondary education and about whether or not they're willing to invest in very expensive higher education. So I think a focus on jobs and connecting the world of K-12 education more directly and more inspirationally to the world of employment, particularly as that world of employment with AI and so forth is changing rapidly. It makes sense for Harvard to have an oar in the water here, but, I'm with you. The way to get there isn't from a heavy-handed push from the federal government.
So we're talking to Paul Reville. Can we stay at Harvard for a couple of minutes? Everybody listening knows that the emails from Larry Summers to Epstein and back from Larry Summers' wife to Epstein. Her last name is New. What's her first name? I can't remember what her first name is.
Elisa?
I'm not sure. Whatever it is. New, who also was professor. Originally, he said, I'm going to drop all my many of my major commitments, but I'll keep teaching. That lasted for one class. He's not teaching anymore. There's now a petition circulating that about getting rid of his tenure. Two questions. One, what do you think of that? And two, petition of students, if I didn't say that, at Harvard.
It's Alyssa.
Alyssa, thank you. How often is tenure ever rescinded for a tenured professor?
Very seldom. Very seldom happens. It'd have to be some blatant infraction with respect to university rules or other outside.
Is this that kind of infraction?
I don't think it rises to that level. I think it's inappropriate. I think it's shameful what went on. I think it's a sign of some real character flaws that he carried on in this way and used his influence, to gain benefits for his wife and so on and so forth, and was protected for a long time from visibility for his indiscretions.
By Harvard.
Yeah, by Harvard, and as a result of his status. So all of that means serious flaws in what he's done and cause for embarrassment and shame on his part. But I don't think it rises to the level.
You know what worries me most about this thing? I mean, two things. One, in Harvard's own reporting on Harvard-Epstein connections, they minimized. This is prior to this most recent disclosure, minimized the Summers connection. Summers didn't report the gift that was given to his wife. I think it was, he requested $1 million for a poetry thing. They got $110,000. I'm quite sure that wasn't reported. My reaction to this is the reaction I would often have when Brian McGrory was with us when he was editor of the Globe, and there's a fabulous Spotlight series, and I'd say, this is fabulous, but it worries me about all the series you haven't written yet about corruption you just don't have the person power to cover. If this was, I think it's fair to say, covered up or not disclosed, shouldn't that cause people to be concerned about whether or not the Harvards of the world protect the most powerful among them until they are exposed?
I mean, I think it's cause for concern. I think a lot of people understand that to be the case anyway. I mean, this is a powerful, influential person who had a lot of powerful, influential people in his corner, pulling for him and protecting him and so on and so forth. And, an expose like this from time to time, I should give pause both to the universities themselves and to the folks who are carrying on in the way Larry Summers carried on, that, if you're not careful, you're going to be called out for this kind of thing, either as a university or as an individual. And so hopefully they get some benefit out of this.
Well, you figure since this happened back in 2005, all these years, people must have known that. I think that's the kind of thing you might talk about.
What is you're talking
well,
about?
if you went and spent a day at Pedophile Island, or,
right after their honeymoon.
Yeah, that people would have known about that. But he was president right around that time, too, so maybe that...
Yeah. No, it's an odd choice for a honeymoon.
It was an odd choice.
Yeah, I think it was after the honeymoon, but it was right close. I think it was 10 days after they get married, something like that. It was close by. Well, let's talk a little bit about AI cheating in schools. One teacher in the story we read from Maria Simoes in the Globe talked about one teacher demanding that kids write their first draft in longhand to try to avoid
class.
Yeah, and how they're going out and getting these $699 a month, $40 a year AI cheating detectors. So things are really revved up.
Everything's up in the air. It's kind of a tumultuous scene in terms of people, in the teaching profession, including from higher education on down. We're grappling with it in the teaching that I do. And it's changing so rapidly. New tools are being produced every month with respect to this. And, people are wanting, on the one hand, not to be Luddites, to embrace this new technology. It's obviously going to have a huge and consequential influence on our world, on the world of employment, and on the world of teaching and learning. And yet we haven't figured it out yet, and it's a moving target. So, I mean, I just signed up for the somewhat higher level of ChatGPT, the $20 a month version, and the amount of power that brings to analytical questions in almost instantaneous fashion.
Like what?
Well, I ask a complicated question about, I'm in the field of cradle to career place-based work, and and that's somewhat complicated for people to understand, let alone for a machine to understand. You pipe in a question of what are the major challenges facing our industry, and within 5 seconds it comes out with a list that is a very good outline that if a student submitted to me as a paper, I'd have to give it an A. So it makes me wonder, with respect to my own teaching, does it make sense any longer to give people assignments that are papers that are done outside of class? Because this technology is pervasive. Everybody's using it. Everybody has access to it.
But the problem, and I'm sure trust really matters, it seems to me, between the person standing in the front of the room and the students in the room. And even though when I read the thing that Marjorie read, that was in the Globe, right? The story about it, was it Lexington where that teacher was? I can't remember, Arlington.
Yeah, I think
Lexington, wherever it was. While I was nodding, well, that's a creative solution. It also is basically saying to the kids, you're guilty until proven innocent. So I don't have a solution, even though I sort of like that, but it's assuming that they're going to violate the rules, right? I mean, isn't that the predicate?
Well, it's on the one hand, we're telling them to embrace the technology, use it, and benefit from it. And on the other hand, we're saying, with very vague guidelines what's in and what's out, and it's difficult for students to understand.
So do you have an idea? I mean, what would you do?
I don't. I mean, in the immediate short term, I'm thinking about maybe we need to actually return to what you were talking about earlier, is classroom assignments. The way I learned to write in high school was with blue books and a pen.
Of course, so do we.
And we had to write for an hour and a half, and it got graded coming back. And I think we're going to have to do less take-home and more in-class testing of skills, or at least doing it at the beginning of a process. I mean, the one teacher who was discussed in the particular article you mentioned was asking students to do an outline first, and then he could compare the outline with the finished product. And so
well, also, it turns you into kind of a distrusting teacher, too, if you have to go out and get AI cheating software and subject every piece that the kid hands in to that kind of a test.
Got the time to do that? If you
exactly.
Got a class of, some of my colleagues have classes of 100 people. You're going to go through a check on each of those, and then explore them, and then make a cheating case, which is a major thing to bring against the student in a context of university.
But on the other hand, obviously, if you can just go ask that kind of question you just talked about with your cradle to what? Career, thank you. Yeah. And they could give you a wonderful answer, and you could hand that in. That's okay. But you won't, of course, learn anything.
Well, that's what we're concerned about going upstream. What are the consequences in terms of student learning? If, in fact, I mean, it's a bit like when they brought the calculator on and they said, okay, well, now do we have to learn calculus or algebra anymore since we have a machine to do it? And I think we concluded we still need to teach those things, but there are ways in which the, having the calculator expedites the process, and you can build that into certain ways of examining a students' knowledge and skill. We haven't figured that out yet, I think, with the AI, in terms of, okay, you have all this information at your disposal, but it used to be that students would have to do a fair amount of reading in order to provide that analysis that I just talked about AI generating in 5 seconds. They'd have to read a bunch of literature. They'd have to think about what were the emergent points. They'd have to tie them together and prioritize them.
And you'd remember more of it, obviously, too.
And so you just wonder. I read an essay recently in one of the newspapers, I think it was the Times, about a very high-performing student who had been in a cohort of high-performing students, and they all used to like to, collaborate and think together and share the kind of joint pressure of meeting deadlines, for producing products, be they papers or getting ready for a test. And he's saying all that is evaporated now because people don't really feel that pressure anymore. They don't have to read the books because, you can get a summary of the book here. They're not feeling pressured in terms of producing the paper by a deadline because you can get it done very easily.
But just like you mentioned the calculator, when you said you don't feel you have to read the book, I guess I can plead guilty, and I'm guessing the two of you once or twice were guilty too. Cliff Notes.
Oh, Cliff Notes.
We had Cliff Notes were our cumbersome version of AI, decades ago, and so it's just a variation on a theme, and so it really.
But they didn't help you write the questions; they help you know the themes of the book.
Right. Well, they helped exactly.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to read the book, frankly.
You did not have to read the book.
Right, and you could get.
I wouldn't know, of course.
Well, but it can point you in the right directions. For example, if I'm planning to do a lecture on team building in my course, and I haven't read all the literature about that, but I want to get up to date on it. I can plug in what's the state of the art in the literature on team building these days. What should I be looking at in order to develop a syllabus or lecture notes for a classroom presentation on that? It just makes me smarter about the field, and so I do that, and presumably I've developed some of the analytical skills so I can sort through the information it gives us, because it gives us way too much information. But what I'm worried about is, particularly as we go to the job market and so forth, and you're eliminating high mid-level jobs, low mid-level jobs, where people develop skills that eventually informed them as they moved up the ladder and became leaders in their respective professions. Now they won't have to do those steps as we get increasingly more sophisticated with AI and the robots come on, the humanoid robots. When you take that into account, jobs are going to disappear.
Oh, yeah, by the millions, I think. And the Peter Principle that we're all aware of right now will get even more.
Oh, my gosh.
It'd be really
relationships,
horrifying.
too. I mean, it's nothing to do with education. I've mentioned about 9 times on the air that terrific and frightening piece in the Globe magazine a few weeks ago about the woman whose life was fairly lonely and had lots of issues, and she develops an AI family. And not only, which I thought was frightening, but her shrink, her psychotherapist, is quoted in the story, said it's been a huge plus for her and brought her to a place, even though she's got this AI family, that it makes her more able to deal well with humans in the world. I mean, I find that hard to believe, but she's the expert.
I see more and more reports of people using this as a therapist. They're canceling their relationship with their therapist, and they're, because it's a great listener. Or it's
not always a great listener. As part, if you read, I'm sure you have, it's not always a great listener because occasionally it gives you some really dark advice that's led to some horrible outcomes for particularly some young people, but not just young people. In any case, I mean, in education, it seems to me, it is.
But what you're pointing to is a good point, Jim. I mean, the in building relationships, there's muscle, there's skills, there's the back and forth that goes with human beings. We have a number of people now who are developing, personal relationships, intimate relationships with bots, where it's all about them. You don't have to deal with another person. The bot listens to you, responds to you, supports you, and promotes your interest, and is always there, always available, and has no needs of its own. And people are finding, well, that's easier than having a person to deal with.
Well, as I've said repeatedly, but you have many over this, then we'll move on, is when I'm in my car and I'm using AI, because I have a Tesla, and so you get the grok from Twitter, and you inadvertently say thank you to the AI person, you know that you are doomed. And I've been doing that all the time. We're talking to Paul Reville. We only have a couple of minutes left. One of your favorite organizations, the two of you, the Mass Teachers Association, is supporting a bill that would do away with receiverships. You appointed one of the highest. You appointed the guy
Jeff Riley,
to be the receiver in Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
And he went on to become the what was he? The head of
Commissioner of Education.
Commissioner of Education. Yeah. We had him on the show once or twice. He was great here, actually.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Receiverships, for the most part, have not been terribly successful. Is that a fair statement?
Well, they've been successful at some things. They've been successful at clearing up fiscal misfeasance, malfeasance, things of that nature. They haven't been very successful in terms of academic performance for the most part. There's some exceptions to the rule. Kentucky has done a pretty good job with them. Here, Jeff Riley did a great job while he was there and while that was going on, but that has, local control has been largely returned in Lawrence and performance has declined. The Springfield Empowerment Zone was created in response to pressure that came from the threat of a takeover. Mitchell Chester put pressure on them that he was going to take them over with a new law that we passed in 2010.
Well, also some reforms in Boston as a result of the threat to take over here too, right?
So I think the threat of takeover is as valuable as actual takeovers in themselves. In other words, one of the problems I think we're having in education more generally, there was a big article about this, recently, is why is our performance declining?
Oh, yeah.
Overall.
The liberals, they blame the liberals, Jim.
I knew that, Mark.
Is the lack of performance pressure. In other words, not a real focus on what the outcomes are supposed to be. We're in this whole battle over reading and the science of reading and phonics and things of this nature. Does your child know how to read? And we can test that and find out about that. But the pressure coming, particularly from a lot of the unions, Jim, and I think this is only fair, is let's eliminate that kind of accountability pressure. And when we eliminate that accountability pressure, performance begins to decline. I mean, we'll see it now on MCAS coming up. We've eliminated the graduation requirement. Watch the 10th grade scores. They're already down this year, and they're likely to continue going down. Kids aren't going to try. They don't feel the pressure. And if they're not trying and not feeling the pressure on the exam, it means they're feeling less pressure in terms of the courses. Well, let's see. I mean,
this commission, we're out of time, but the governor's commission's coming out with something in December, which theoretically, even though I wasn't crazy about the first cut at this thing, it will be an alternative that maybe returns the pressure, but not in a way that the voters, including you two, not including you two, didn't like. Luckily, we're out of time.
It's a very
luckily we're out of time.
Thin needle to thread.
Very thin needle to thread. Jim's on the wrong side of the needle.
No, I was on the winning side of the needle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
I was on the winning
Fake
side.
news and misinformation,
sometimes you
Jim.
win the battle and lose the war.
That's
Sometimes
right.
you win the battle and win the war.
Okay.
We'll see, but achievement.
Okay,
Meanwhile,
thank you.
achievement goes down.
Okay.
We almost escaped. We didn't quite make it. We were very close.
We've been speaking with
Good to
Paul
see you,
Reville,
Paul.
former
Good to be
Secretary of
here.
Education. Thank
Happy
you very much,
Thanksgiving.
Paul. We say goodbye to those of you listening on any PM. Tune into the fabulous 413 at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Show continues after the new news. We're going to see this incredible documentary. We're going to talk about what has gone on in Ukraine, hand-to-hand battle. He's Marjorie Egan. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. This is BPR, GBH, any PM.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And New England Botanic Garden at Tower Hill, presenting Nightlights, a celebration of the season with dazzling light displays and festive activities for all ages. November 22nd to January 4th. NEBG.org. Ken Burns and others explore the ideas and values from America's founding with A More Perfect Union, inspiring civic and civil conversations across America. Tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 2 of BPR. Ukrainian journalist, photographer, author, and Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker Mstyslav Chernov presents his latest with Frontline, 2,000 Meters to Andriivka, a dispatch from the front lines of the war embedded with Ukrainian fighters.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then the legendary folk and blues artist Tom Rush. He joins us to talk about his induction into Boston's Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame for his legendary career. Plus, we'll hear from Giselle Byrd, a transgender member of the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, as she faces hate from conservatives and a wave of death threats. It's all next in the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. European leaders have been meeting today to discuss peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. NPR's Rob Schmitz reports they're expected to weigh a U.S. proposal that's drawn criticism from Kyiv and across Europe for being too favorable to Moscow.
A spokesperson for the European Commission says a lot of work remains to be done regarding Ukraine peace proposals. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters that President Trump's 28-point plan has changed since discussions between the U.S., Ukraine, and European countries began over the weekend in Geneva. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadepool characterized the talks as a decisive success for Europeans. European leaders are insisting that Ukraine not give up any territory that it currently holds and that it must not reduce the size of its army, as Trump's plan proposes. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says doing so would undermine security for all of Europe. Rob Schmitz, NPR News, Berlin.
The Trump administration is designating Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles a foreign terrorist organization. It's imposing sanctions that it says includes Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. The U.S. accuses the group of illegally trafficking drugs into the United States. The Venezuelan government calls the designation, quote, ridiculous, and has continued to push back against the U.S. military's buildup in the Caribbean. President Trump spoke with China's President Xi Jinping in a phone call today, according to a White House source confirmed on background. The call was first reported by Chinese state media. According to Reuters, Xi told Trump in that phone call that Taiwan's return to mainland China is, quote, an important part of the post-war international order. Again, that's according to China's official news agency, Xinhua. More than 80 million people across the United States are expected to travel for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. NPR's Joel Rose reports this year's travel forecast is projected to set another record.
AAA is projecting that nearly 82 million people will travel at least 50 miles from home between the Tuesday before Thanksgiving and the Monday after the holiday. That's 1.6 million more than last year's record total. AAA expects that the vast majority, about 73 million, will travel by car. About 6 million people are expected to fly, though AAA says that number could wind up slightly lower if some air travelers made other plans because of flight disruptions during the government shutdown. The Federal Aviation Administration says this is expected to be the busiest Thanksgiving travel season in 15 years, with a peak of more than 52,000 flights scheduled on Tuesday. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
U.S. stocks trading higher this hour, with the Dow up nearly 200 points, or roughly 0.5%. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu was on hand this morning helping to distribute turkeys to older adults at the Nuevo Dia Senior Healthcare Facility in Jamaica Plain. While there, she also took to the microphone.
As you can see, it is a big team that we have at the City of Boston. We're so thankful to partner every single day to try to do whatever we can to take care of our community members and meet the needs of our residents.
Wu says the show of support from sponsors as well as volunteers, especially around the holidays, sets a great example for how great Boston is. A Massachusetts rule that took effect 8 years ago has been all but ignored by several state agencies. The rule required the agencies to cut emissions from state-owned vehicles, and the Commonwealth Beacon reports that court documents show environmental regulators never enforce that rule. Massachusetts agencies that own or lease at least 30 passenger vehicles, from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs all the way to the Department of Transportation, are required to reduce the pollution from the vehicles each year by specific amounts and then submit reports of compliance to the Department of Environmental Protection. That has not been happening. In sports, Monday Night Football, the Hurricanes at the 49ers, and we should note that the Patriots and Giants are next week's Monday night matchup. In the forecast, sunny upper 40s today, clouding up overnight tonight, low 33, cloudy and low 50s tomorrow, sun, clouds, and upper 50s on Wednesday. 46 in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, a personalized program that bases rates on safe driving habits, at Progressive.com. Not available in California or from all agents. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We will be at the Boston Public Library both tomorrow and Wednesday, but not there on Thursday, Thanksgiving, or Friday when we have the day off and do a rerun. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. Donald Trump has given Ukraine, as you know, until Thanksgiving to accept his 28-point peace plan to bring an end to the now 4-year-old war. Much of what Trump is proposing is directly from Russia's wish list, including giving up huge pieces of territory and guaranteeing Ukraine never joins NATO. Well, the good news over the weekend, it appears U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators have updated the plan. Things may be moving in a better direction. But while much of the American people's focus and attention has shifted away from the region, sadly, the toll the fighting is taking on the people on the front lines continues. Tomorrow night on PBS's Frontline, Ukrainian journalist, photographer, author, and Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker Mstyslav Chernov presents his latest with producer and editor Michelle Misner and producer Rainey Aronson-Roth. It's called 2,000 Meters to Andriivka. It offers a vantage point of war almost never seen in nonfiction films. First-hand look at the toll on the sons, brothers, fathers, the soldiers themselves on the front lines.
I want to tell you a story thousands of years old. A story of men fighting for their land. There is a forest in eastern Ukraine, a narrow strip of trees squeezed between two minefields, the only way to Andriivka, a village on the outskirts of Bakhmut. This is a story of this forest and the people who will remain there forever.
You probably recognize Chernov's name from the Academy Award-winning 20 Days in Mariupol, a 2023 collaboration with the Associated Press and PBS's Frontline. 2,000 Meters to Andriivka airs tomorrow night on PBS at 10. It'll be available to stream on YouTube. We spoke with him recently. This film, by the way, is one of the most powerful things you've ever seen. We spoke to him before the latest Trump proposed peace plan.
This invitation is very for me to keep talking all the time about what's happening in Ukraine.
I've never seen anything like this in my life. It was so moving and so upsetting at the same time. But tell our listeners a little bit more of the story.
Yeah, the story is very simple, and that's how I actually think we need to talk about complex stories, like complex themes as war. We're choosing a very, very simple structure, a very simple story of a group of soldiers who were civilians just recently, and they are tasked with this task to liberate the little village on the outskirts of Bakhmut. And the entire film will see them struggling and fighting through this little forest that's standing between them and their target. And we see their loss with this claustrophobic fear of constantly being bombed and targeted by drones and artillery, and we see them lose their friends. And I think it's just in that story of that little forest, there is a story of the entire war that is happening in Ukraine right now.
You know, you humanize it in ways that I could not have imagined doing, and so beautifully and painfully. Why didn't you rely on body cameras and drones? Why did you decide it was important for you to embed yourself with these fighters?
Thank you for that word, humanizing, and that's very important for me, because even I am trying to break through the uniforms. I'm trying to break through the headlines that we see. I'm trying to break through the political statements. I'm trying to get to this very simple idea of here are these civilians that are just trying to defend themselves from the home invasion that is happening right now. And they are fighting for their lives. And therefore, the only perspective that is possible for that is the perspective of them, not us observing them, but just being with them and seeing their tragedy and their sacrifice. And in order to do that ethically, in order to do that right, I, as a filmmaker, a journalist, writer, have to be with them and experience that firsthand, or it's just going to be just far unrelatable story. But this is a story of my community. This is my home.
You know, speaking of your home and the word humanizing, two parts of the movie that will stay with me forever, most of it will, almost all of it will, is one moment when you're just talking to a guy about being from your hometown, Kharkiv, and the competitive schools that you both went to. Another beautiful moment when you're talking to a guy about smoking. And I'm smiling in those minutes because they were so warm and so real. And then you end each of these conversations by narrating and saying, X number of months later, he was dead. X number of months later, he was dead. What does that do to you as the journalist and who were so close to them?
Again, I think at that point, particularly when I talk about it, when I find out, when I want the audience to find out about it and be as devastated by this news as we were when we heard about it and when we went to their funerals, is made not from the vantage point of journalist or a filmmaker, is told from a vantage point of a part of that community, of exactly, we are in rival universities, but we could have been just friends if it wasn't for that war. You know, there is a policeman there, that one who talks about his wife and he needs to fix the toilet and cigarettes, and about his grandson, to who this is the only record of him left. And another one is a warehouse worker that says, I didn't want to be a soldier. But then when your country is invaded, what else do you do? So just having those moments, not abstract political statements, is what makes us human, and brings it down to that simplicity, which I really want to be seen, and universality too.
But to me, and I am very ignorant about the way wars are conducted in 2025, I had a wrong idea that, the drones are far away or the combatants are far away. I watched your movie, and it was like something I saw out of the Civil War in the United States, where people are so close to each other, and the bravery of these men, it really was very moving.
Yeah, I mean, there are two things here: the modern warfare that changed our relationship to war entirely. We now experience it, even if we are the audience or part of the community. We can't be there with the soldiers because of the technology and the way we can observe it, and the battlefield itself has changed. But also, look, this is in trying to place the audience with those men in the trenches. What I'm trying to do is to show how devastating and impossible that experience is.
Yeah.
I am paradoxically trying to make the anti-war statement. The war is horrible and paradoxical and shouldn't happen.
Yep.
And we shouldn't be placed in the conditions where we need to be fighting for every single meter of our land. But we are there in that condition, because otherwise we gonna be destroyed. And I think this is in many ways a cautionary tale about what could happen to the entire world as we are sliding towards this proxy conflicts that inevitably will become world war. And I just don't want it to happen. I want people to see Ukrainians and what happens to them and how they can resist this invasion and not let it happen.
By the way, when you see this film, which I hope you all will, every young man fighting, you'll say, that's my kid.
Yeah.
That's my brother. That's my... it's so relatable and real. We're talking to Mstyslav Chernov, who is the leader behind this brilliant new film called 2,000 Meters to Andriivka, which will be on PBS with Frontline a little bit later this month. You mentioned one of the soldiers' grandsons, and I read a story, Mstyslav, about the premiere of the film in Kyiv, and how some of the people who'd lost someone they love were there. Can you describe that experience and what one person said that relates to a grandson, if you will?
Yeah. It was a first screening of the film in Ukraine, and it was a huge theater. 700 people came, and I was sitting there in the dark, and then there was that moment when Sheva speaks about cigarettes, but then he starts speaking about his grandson and his wife, and I knew at that moment that his wife is there in that cinema, and she heard a gasp of the audience when everyone found out that he died later. And then when the film was over, she went on stage together with other guys who survived that battle, and people were standing for 10 minutes and giving them applause and just acknowledging their sacrifice. And then she told us, finally, I can tell his grandson who his grandfather was. And then they all came out from the cinema, and they said, we really want people to come from other cinemas where they were screening F1, How to Train Your Dragon, and Lilo and Stitch. They really wanted people to come and see their experience and their sacrifice. And it's just that's why I'm doing it.
Well, you also had some very moving scenes of funerals. Someone saying in one of those scenes, are we going to lose all our boys? Worried that was going to happen. But you captured that, the mothers, the grandmothers, the sisters, the wives, burying their soldiers.
Yeah. And that is why my only message here is we really need this invasion to stop. That's it. And there is another soldier again who we spoke about, this young man who is a Pole-Zionist freak, right? And we speak about his rival universities, and he's actually not from Kharkiv, but he studied in my city, and he's from Mirnograd, right? Mm-hmm. And right now, Mirnograd is being surrounded by Russian forces, and all of these men are volunteers. All of them are there's such a clarity in why they're there and why they do what they do.
What struck me too is you showed several above scenes of the forest, and it was all green and it was all beautiful. And then you showed scenes of the destruction that was just overwhelming, of all these businesses and houses and everything else being gone. And when you finally did make it to this place, tell us about the scene with the soldier and the flag.
Well, before he does that, we actually have some sound about them reaching Andriivka and how it is a pile of rubble. And here's that realization.
We settle in the basement, and the artillery keeps hitting us. It's only now the understanding comes to me. We really are in Andriivka. But the village doesn't exist anymore. Among the ruins, there is hardly a place to raise the flag. The villagers are dead or gone. Everything is destroyed. People, animals, memories, and all that is left of it is a name.
Yeah, so you do film a soldier raising the Ukrainian flag, but tell us about that.
Yeah, he does reach the house on the edge of the village. He does raise the flag above it, and the village is destroyed. And there is, of course, a conflicting feeling about it. But I think in that moment, you realize that this is the battle not just for cities. This is not the battle for kilometers. This is the battle for hope. That flag over there, even if we know that it was later again, the village later was again occupied and the battle continued, that particular moment was the moment of hope. And that moment of hope is preserved in history. And no one can take it away. No one. And that moment was so important for the entire country. We were waking up every morning reading news. Is there another village? Is there another name liberated? And that was important. That's something that holds country together.
When you talk about there's nothing left, I don't want to give everything away, but there's a beautiful scene with a cat too.
Oh yeah,
really, away. There is a glimpse of hope there. Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of hope, Mstyslav, it's really hard to gauge sometimes whether the men were putting on a good face because they love their country and are so dedicated to their families and their fellow Ukrainians, or they believe that they succeed in the end. What I know everybody is different, but what was the prevailing sentiment about the prospects here?
The prevailing sentiment was, and it still is, however, it is even harder right now, the conditions, is that they are there to make sure that this war will not be fought by our children. And I am grateful for that, because that is fighting for peace. And the prevailing feeling is that this is a fight for survival of a nation. It's not a land dispute. It's not a geopolitical stance. It's not about historical justice, right? It is about surviving. They know that if they are going to give up their city, which is Mirnograd, Kharkiv, Polona, Kyiv is going to be occupied. The people are going to be arrested and killed. The children will go to Russian schools and will be turned, their identity will be stolen, and they will be turned into Russians. And they will be sent to fight Europeans later, just as every single empire in the world in history did. They occupy the countries around the empire occupies the countries and outskirts, turn their nations into soldiers and send them forward. So in order for that not to happen, every single of these men and women has to fight. And yes, the fight is hard. And yes, every single one of them wants peace and they want invasion to stop. But when somebody's holding a gun to your child's head, you fight.
You know, you go out of your way not to talk about yourself, but to talk about the people who are doing the fighting in this case, the people supporting them. But how do you come back from these experiences? How did you come back from 2,000 meters to Andriivka? How are you different?
You want a true answer or the bravado?
No,
well, let's start with the truth, and then maybe we'll have to move to the bravado later. What's the truth?
The truth is you don't come back. It just stays with you, and you carry it with you for your entire life. This is not something you can in time come in peace, in terms of some kind of peace with yourself and with the loss and with what you've seen, and making film about it, making sure this is heard and seen is helping. But ultimately, a piece of me, a piece of every single one of these soldiers remained in that forest and will be there forever. And in the end of the film, I asked the question from Sheva, what if this war will go on until the end of our lives? And I don't mean it literally. I mean that every single one of us will carry this war until the end of our lives in our hearts. But that's just what it is. Unfortunately, that's the life we have now, and we just have to try to survive.
You know, speaking of what you take away from this, is I'm ashamed about our country's retreat from support for people fighting to preserve democracy, just average, ordinary.
It's very different at the beginning.
Caring people. And there's a line that you utter near the end where you say, the longer this goes on, the less the world cares about it. I'm not so sure the world cares less about it. Unfortunately, the American government cares less about it. Does that weigh on the minds of people who are putting their lives at risk, or is that something they have to store somewhere in the recesses because it's too painful to deal with?
It is on the mind of Ukrainians, and it is on the mind of people who care and think about it every day. But also, I think, especially in the past year, when a lot of political statements were made, but not many actions were actually made, there is a certain resentment. It's not disappointment, but just a general distrust to political statements grew over in Ukraine, and people realized that, and that realization came actually much earlier, but it was just reinforced recently, that the only person you can rely on truly in this fight is just right next to you. And there's so much appreciation to the help that already came to Ukraine to support this resistance. But the realization is there. You always, if it's your home, you have to be fighting for it alone. That's the reality. And you can't ultimately put responsibility on anyone to think more or less. My way about your home, but my hope is just that the politicians and the people around the world will realize more that this is not only fight for democracy or for justice that is happening in Europe and in Ukraine. It's actually an existential threat that Russia poses to both Europe and and US. If you hear what Russian media is saying every single day to their own people is that they are currently at war with US. They're showing pictures of nuclear bombs going off and hitting Washington and London, and that's their normality. They already live in a state of war with US. And I'm afraid that not many people realize that.
Before you go, has President Zelensky seen Mariupol and 2,000 meters to Andriivka?
I don't think he has yet. He has seen 2,000 meters to Andriivka. He's very busy, but he has seen 20 days in Mariupol. Yes.
And what did he? Did you speak with him, or do you know what his reaction was?
I did not. He did not give me a statement about the film. I mean, it's just the film is acknowledged in Ukraine, and it's just became like a part of Ukrainian culture, modern culture, and hopefully it is also inspiring to the filmmakers. And so we do have this conversation whenever we are as filmmakers and people of culture talk to the president. We do talk about cinema and importance of cinema for history and for diplomacy as well.
Well, I hope this film becomes part of American culture too, Mstyslav. It is brilliant, and painful, and incredibly important, and we thank you for your time and your work. It's really good to see you.
Relays the total horror of war in a way I've never seen before.
I just hope it goes beyond Ukraine, beyond talking about Ukraine, to more universal conversation about war and how we as humanity are unfortunately destroying ourselves, but we can stop it.
Thanks for your work and your time.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for your time. Bye.
We've been speaking with Ukrainian journalist, photographer, author, and Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker Mstyslav Chernov, whose latest film is a masterpiece, really, a collaboration between the Associated Press and Frontline, and it will air later this month on PBS Frontline. Okay, up next, we're going to be speaking with legendary blues and folk singer Tom Rush, who just has been inducted into the Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame. Tom Rush is next. He's going to play one of his great songs for us. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Caring for a parent can be difficult, and for millennials, it comes with unique challenges.
A lot of us came of age and entered the workforce during major economic crises, and you add on the costs of caregiving, that sets up an entirely different economic catastrophe.
I'm Juana Summers, millennial caregivers who are also trying to build their own lives, on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Boston Ballet, presenting The Nutcracker. This holiday tradition mesmerizes audiences of all ages with beloved characters and Tchaikovsky's memorable score. On stage starting November 28th. Official tickets at bostonballet.org. And Historic Beverly, The American Revolution, a story of the war in 28 paintings exhibit, features works highlighted in Ken Burns' new documentary. Ticket information at historicbeverly.org. beverly.net.
Welcome back to BPR, Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy, and we have no idea what we're doing, but we're flying ahead anyway.
Well, Tom Rush is going to be on later.
Yeah,
he was a screw up on the time. He's not going to be on now. He's going to be on at 1:30.
Okay.
But that's what we hope.
That's okay. Let's do that. Okay, we're going to do what we're going to do at the end of the show right now, which is an invitation to you to give us a buzz on the following. In Massachusetts, there are laws in the books that prohibit fortune tellers from fraudulently taking money or obtaining property by trick, whatever that means. That's a quote, by the way. For those who thought it would be an easy scam, it's not. Fortune tellers, I didn't know this, are required to be licensed in Massachusetts. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Oh, good. Okay, so we thought we'd open the lines on the heels of a great Beth Titel column highlighting one effort to create essentially a consumer reports for psychics, shamans, and energy healers. What is your experience with these kinds of practitioners? About 1/3 of American adults say they've personally encountered some type of spirit or unseen spiritual force. Even more Americans say they had a strong feeling that someone who has passed away was communicating with them from the beyond. This is according to the Pew Research Center, Marjorie, which doesn't lie. And it comes at a time when trust in traditional methods of healing are at an all-time low. If you can't trust the CDC for medical advice, would you turn to a psychic or an alternative energy healer, whatever they are? Horror Stories, Healed Energy. Give us a call, 877-301-8970.
Okay,
Question.
we're going to start this with a little sound from Kim Kardashian. Yes, because apparently she wants to pass the lawyer's bar. Wants to become a lawyer, and she thought she was going to pass the bar, and she went to a bunch of psychics. They all told her that she was going to pass the bar. So here she is admonishing her vast team of psychics for giving her bad info on her legal career. This is from earlier this month, a few days after she indeed failed to pass the bar.
I'm just letting you guys know that all of the psychics that we have met with and that we're obsessed with are all full of shit. They all collectively, maybe 4 of them, have told me I was going to pass the bar. So they're all full pathological liars. Don't believe anything they say.
So
I don't know if I even know what she sounded like. I don't know if I've ever heard her before.
That starts out in a negative note, but a lot of people, especially this is a big thing that people do for, like, I know a lot of people have done this before. They got married, or they went out the bachelorette night, and they went to the psychic to get advice on what they were going to do. I don't know if anybody ever believes they take this seriously, but some of these people are taking this very seriously. They talked about this one woman. They're making some decent money here. This 90-minute coaching and Akashic record session.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Akashic. I don't even know how to say it right. Akashic. I don't know how you say it.
Thank you.
$400 for 90 minutes. But this woman, actually the one who does it, she's Portuguese. She lives in my hometown, Fall River. She's an Azorian healer. And she says she helps people get them. She's an acupuncturist, a hypnotherapist, and rips demons out of people. So if you're affected by demons, I guess you can call her up, and it's not just about finding out.
You're affected by demons?
Affected by demons.
I'm calling her at 2:00. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Okay, so here is the...
You go to findyourhealers.com, Jim. That's where you go to try to find your healers.
Okay, so what is the point I'm trying to make? Oh, I know what the point I'm trying to make is... I know. Let's move on. Let's just not look at the screen, and let's.
I think we need to change it to 1:30 and 1:45.
Okay, so here's what I was going to say. There are a lot of radio shows. I was going to criticize other radio shows who have these people on. I'm not. By the way, a lot of these people allegedly are licensed and capable. I don't know that firsthand, but they often have a quack on who you call the radio show. By the way, the reason I'm criticizing others is because we did it once too.
Yes, we did.
She
was very good.
Don't say her name.
I won't. She was very good.
So essentially you call in and they say, what's your name? And you say, Jim. When were you born? Such and such a date. Okay. And they allegedly then know you and can tell you everything about yourself and everything's going to happen to you. Do you believe that, Marjorie?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Okay. 877-301 8970 is the number.
But this has become a big thing. I mean, there's these licensing services. Beth Titel points out you can get them for your dog. I mean, you may need to clean
For your
dark,
dog?
For your dog, yeah.
What is it? Your dog is going to talk to the psychic?
Yes. Well, in the Beth Titel story, which she explains all this, some people feel they need a soul retrieval specialist.
Oh.
Or they need a shaman. Or they need someone to clear dark energy from their home, and you want to make sure this person is legitimate. So she talked to this woman, Marisa Finelli, an acupuncturist, hypnotherapist, and a psychic who started this Facebook networking group for
I checked it out.
healers.
I went to the website.
It's kind of like a Yelp for the spiritual.
Yeah, but you didn't explain the animal thing. The dog is
one
barking
of the things
at the
you
psychic?
can find a place where someone can communicate with your dog. If your dog...
Oh, if your dog's dead.
No.
Oh.
Or maybe you need... Maybe the dog is still alive, and the dog is plagued by dark energy and demon spirits.
Oh. I'm plagued by dark energy and demon spirits. Can it help me?
Listen, 1/3 of grown-ups, you said this at the beginning.
Well, repeat it. I think it'd be good
1/3
to
of
have
grown-ups said they have encountered a spirit, and more than that, we're edging into 1/2 have communicated with the dead. So we would love to hear about your experiences with these not faith healers. What do you call them? Psychics.
You know what the worst part is? Do you know that I've had it, not personally.
Yeah.
I know people who've gone to one of these people, I don't know what they're called, the ones that see the future.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when they say, "What do you see in my future?" And they say they don't see anything? You're screwed. I mean, you're
well, they always tell you good
screwed.
things. If they see you getting run over by a bus the next day, they're not going to tell you that.
No, here's what they say. You're going to become wealthy, not right away, down the line. Am I going to meet the person of my dreams? Yes, you are, not right away.
Your soulmate, Jim. You're going to meet your soulmate.
The line. Am I going to find the apartment that I've always wanted? Yes, you are, but not right away, down the line. I mean, I'm not a huge... I assume we're going to have somebody call who actually is a psychic.
Well, listen to this.
Who's going to say this is the real deal.
Somebody says, I have seen ghosts and felt presences. I don't rely on Western medicine unless other paths have been taken first. I believe in meditation and its healing power for mind and body, and some of these spiritual things are just unproven science.
Have you ever you've done this, right?
We had this person on the show.
No, I know, but we're not mentioning her name because I'm disparaging the profession.
She asked if there was someone I wanted to get in touch with, and I said, my mother, because my mother's been dead for years.
And what happened?
Well, she remarked on something that was unusual about my mother.
Oh,
I mean, like her Dolly Parton, like.
No, is that true?
Don't you remember you were
and
there?
And she did have.
She did.
That's true.
She did.
And that was accurate.
Yeah. There was something unusual about my mother, and she came back and told me what it was that was unusual about my mother.
Now
and
you
she
believe in
was
these?
right. Well, I don't know, but all I know is that she told me about my mother and the Dolly Parton kind of experience.
Well, by the way, and I've read a little bit about psychics. A lot of them are able to talk about the size of the breasts of your parents. That is a trick. Now, John from Nantucket, who obviously is a student of this, said, last time I went for a reading, the psychic predicted Jim would complain about daylight saving time, prescient. Well,
That's very
obviously
good.
they were. I mean, that was really good.
877-301-8970 is the number. Ren from Boston. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Ren. How are you?
Hi, thanks. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I think I missed the first part of the conversation.
It wasn't that good, so don't worry about it. Go ahead.
I think it would be amazing to have some kind of Yelp for psychic services. You know, personally, I am the opposite of psychic. I have never felt presences or energies or
like you.
Ghosts.
Yeah.
However, I know people who do have those experiences, and I absolutely believe them. I've had a lot of experiences like that where other people have experienced these things. And, you know, just based on sort of my experience of those folks, I do believe them. And I will also add, you know, there are people who do sort of psychic things and shamanic things that's really part of religious traditions.
It is.
And they're not trying to grift anyone. And so even just to have some kind of directory where you can know, like, hey, this person is honest and reputable, versus this person will keep trying to squeeze money out of you. I think that's would be a great public service.
But Ren, I don't doubt that people believe they had these experiences. But do you believe they actually did? Do you know what I'm trying to say? I don't think they're lying. I think they communicated with their dog or whatever they did. But do you actually believe it happened?
A lot of people believe this happens.
I know people who don't have a sense of smell.
Yeah.
But if I smell something, I'll tell them about it, and they should believe me. The milk has gone sour. So in this, I think there are senses that other people have that I don't have.
That's really open-minded.
I believe those are real things.
Oh,
Ren, you're a better person
thank you
than I.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, people swear by the mad Russian in Brookline. He's a hypnotist and helps people break habits.
Well, that's totally
smoking.
different. That's totally different. It's a hypnotist. It's like a shrink who hypnotizes people.
People go into these trance states, Jim.
But
and
that doesn't mean that you can predict the future.
Well, how do you
By the
know?
way, you know what I'm going to predict,
What?
which is the best thing I've predicted in months? That the judge is going to dismiss both cases against James Comey and Letitia James.
Well, that would be good.
The Department
because they're totally bogus
the
cases.
judge, excuse me, it has happened.
It's happened already?
The judge has dismissed the
good.
cases brought by that Halligan person who had never tried a criminal case against the former head of the FBI, James Comey, and the Attorney General from New York, Letitia James. That is a really big deal.
Yeah, it's not been a good couple of weeks for Trump. Now, we started the show by pointing out that Kim Kardashian was told by several psychics she was going to pass the bar exam, and then she insulted the psychic.
And then she drops F-bombs all over the place.
Okay, so this is from Peter in Mystic, Connecticut. As someone who has passed 2 bar exams, my advice to Kim Kardashian is spend time studying for the bar instead of going to seances with psychics. What do you think about that?
That's a very good point. I passed the bar the first time, which was fairly shocking since I didn't go to I didn't go to law school that much, but I did pass the bar because I took a course.
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with the psychic. You haven't answered
hard
the
to pass
question.
the bar.
Other than the breast experience, which obviously is pretty incredible.
I know,
should
wasn't that incredible?
Well, I wouldn't know because I hadn't seen your mother's breasts, but I trust that you're telling the truth.
And she was short, too.
Okay. Oh, you didn't
She was short, yeah. She was short, yeah.
She was toppling over all over the place, or
It
what?
was a problem.
Oh.
Get weighed down.
Okay, we should move on from that, I guess.
People say it's an Irish thing. I'm not sure if that's true.
So did that cause you to believe that these people can actually see things that you can't?
Well, the same person, and I'm not going to name her because I haven't done my research today.
Okay, sure.
But the same person, I know lots of people who've gone to her, and they view her as a medium that can get in touch with people from the dead. People
do you
do
think
this,
you're born with that kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't know. But people I know that have gone to it have said things. They believe it. They think that they're getting messages.
But that's why I said to Ren,
from the great beyond.
I believe they believe it. Do you believe they actually have the experience?
Jim, I really don't. I really don't
Well, I
know.
know you don't
I know
know,
lots of
Marjorie.
people who think they have ghosts in their house.
Yes.
And they talk about
Do you
cold
think you have
spaces.
a ghost in your house?
I do not have a ghost in my house, thank goodness. But I do have good friends who insisted there was a ghost in their house.
Who would
well,
that
I
be?
can't tell you, but I can tell you that when you turn the radio station in their house when the ghost was active,
The ghost comes on?
When you used to have knobs in the radio to
Yes,
change the
I remember
stations,
them, yes.
it would play the same. It would play the same music
All the way down the
all
thing?
the way down the line.
You know what? There's
And
a
we
word
heard
for that. You know what the word
dancing
is?
on the roof.
2 words. Broken radio. That's what it's called. Broken radio. That's Marjorie's proof that psychics or ghosts exist.
Matt in New Bedford, have you seen any ghosts lately?
Hi, Matt. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Fine, thank you.
Ghosts? Actually, no. No ghosts. Although a few ghost-related things, I guess, have happened. I've come home and my dog has greeted someone who's not there, like greeted to a space in the house where there's no one there.
Wow. Now, what do you make of that?
Very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, that's very strange.
And I guess my only other ghost story was a few years ago. My father-in-law passed away, and then one by one, each of the members of the family staying in the house, it was my mother-in-law, my wife, and myself, we all had feeling sensations. Like my mother-in-law felt a pat on the shoulder. My wife felt also like a nice, like a comforting touch on the shoulder.
Brother.
And then I felt a strong poke in my shoulder. And I swear to you, I was not asleep. I was fully awake. Boom, right in the shoulder, and my eyes just. I mean, it was at night. It was inexplicable.
That's pretty incredible,
Well,
actually.
okay, but you know something, Matt? I think you hear those stories quite a bit from people who had someone who passed away in their home, feeling that person in their home for several days after the person is dead.
Do you ever have that feeling?
Why don't we talk about your feelings for a change?
Okay,
Jim?
go ahead.
Have you ever had that feeling?
I'm not answering. I'm sorry. on answering that question.
Okay.
Thank you for
I
the
don't
call.
think that is that unusual for people to feel the person.
How come neither you nor I have ever had that experience if it's so common?
Well, I have I had a lot of tentacles out in this area, and I think lots of people
You
do.
have?
Yes.
Name one name of a friend of yours whom I know.
I'll tell you later. But you will know this person who had the house with
really?
the ghost. Yes. Janice in Rhode Island, thank you for calling.
All right. Janice, hello.
Hi, guys. I love you guys. Listen to you all the time. This is my second time calling, and this is my jam. I mean, I was a registered nurse, so I have a bachelor's in science degree.
Yeah.
And I happen to have a brain hemorrhage from a pharmaceutical medication about 20 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
So I was stroked out. 2 years goes by. I got the brain headache that never leaves. I'm stuttering. I can't do math, nor can I be a nurse anymore. Because my brain just didn't work anymore. So 2 years goes by. My aunt says, I know this little Catholic nun who does this thing. You wanna go for a class? I'm like, sure. So we go to the class. It was Reiki Energy, Attunement Level 1. So we didn't know what the heck that was back in 2002, right? So we go. As I sat there with her hands over my head, I literally had a miraculous healing. I felt the electrical currents, reconnecting
wow.
my brain. The words "precious Jesus" came into my frontal lobe, which is those are not my words. They were actually the nuns. I found out later.
Oh my
she told
goodness.
me.
Precious what? Precious what?
Precious Jesus.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, okay. Okay.
So the nun actually was praying that. You know how nuns would.
That's right.
Yeah. And she said I was the most psychic. So, I mean, I was a very clinical, very critical kid.
There you go.
Didn't believe it. Didn't know what we were doing. Woke up the next day. I have never had a headache again. Ever.
Wow.
Janice, that's a great... You're talking about Reiki, the touch thing? They
barely touch you, yeah.
That's what listen to this one. So she taught me it's energy work, right?
Energy work, okay.
So I went on to do all the levels of Reiki. Now I'm a master Reiki level. And now, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen.
Please.
When I do Reiki, one day I thought to myself, okay, I'm getting messages for these clients, and I'm thinking, why don't I invite these loved ones into the session, right? But I did it mentally. I just did it in my head.
Yeah.
I didn't share it with the client, right?
Okay.
Well, don't you know, halfway through the session, my client wakes up, opens up her eyes, shocked, and says, Janice? And I said, what, Miriam? She goes, you are my grandmother right now.
Wow.
That is rather an incredible set of stories, Janice. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I
with
tell
us.
you, there you go. So Janice has had this experience.
Well, obviously
Donald
she
Trump has clearly had this experience
What do you
because
mean?
lately he's very worried about whether he's going to get to heaven. And a little bird told him that he was not really high on the list.
Oh, he did
on
say
the ladder.
that.
That's right. So he's thinking about these things, Jim, as it
Did
gets
you
to be
read
the
this?
time.
Anonymous text says, I had a terrible year. Did you read that? It's a good one.
Yeah.
Here it is. I had a terrible year and called the psychic hotline to find out how my next year would be. The person who answered said, who is it? So I hung up. I mean, if you're really psychic, shouldn't you know who called? That is exactly what my position would be. Now, here's a
On the other hand, we have a texter who says, I have a ghost who steals things. Then the ghost puts them back weeks later.
Self-proclaimed psychic HD guy on YouTube. That's how he identifies himself. I predict this show will end at 2 o'clock. Actually, the way it's going, it may not. Thank you. Okay. Bob is driving around? That's what you're doing? You're
Bob
just
is driving around. Hi, Bob. Thank you for calling.
Hey, thanks for having me. But, it's speakerphone, so we're safe here, okay?
Okay, good. Okay, good.
So it's my impression that if you give medical advice and you charge money or get something of value for that, then you're breaking the law. You have to be licensed to give medical advice.
That's a good point.
So, so if some psychic is giving medical advice and, of course, is charging money for the session, she's technically breaking the law.
That's a good point.
And I guess the second thing I want to say is if you want medical advice, then set up a relationship with a primary care physician, okay? And the longer you have that PCP, the more you'll trust.
Who was talking about medical advice? Hey, Bob.
This isn't really medical advice.
Who was talking about medical advice?
Well, Reiki, I guess you could say would
that
be
woman.
medical
That's
stuff.
what he's referring
But I mean,
to.
if you're getting your future predicted, when you're going to find your soulmate, you know what I mean? That's not medical advice.
But in the beginning of your conversation, you were talking about that the psychics were giving medical advice or giving medical prediction.
It's Marjorie's fault.
I'm sorry. Well, I shouldn't have said that. I don't remember saying that. I shouldn't have said that.
Bob, you make good point.
But they are talking about clearing dark energy from your home, and a shaman and a soul retrieval specialist who will get you in touch with people from the great beyond. Don't you ever read these stories about these people that have these seances all the time?
Yeah,
Mary
I don't
Todd
believe
Lincoln
them.
was always having seances in the White House. Abraham Lincoln got very upset about it. He didn't. Yes, he didn't think that was a good look for the president's wife to be having seances in the White House. But she did. Of course, a lot of people think that, maybe she wasn't the, most stable of people.
Now, before you get to Paulette,
Yeah.
this is another one that's pretty convincing, I have to admit, and I'm a skeptic. My dog whisperer told me my dog would like me more if I let her sleep on the bed. Now we get along better. So there is some, thank you. It's a very important dog sound.
Paulette,
by the way, let me
Connecticut.
just say that not only were the claims, the cases dropped.
She was unlawfully appointed.
That
Oh,
Halligan
good.
was unlawfully appointed. And if I haven't looked it up, but I'm 90% sure that they filed the criminal charges against Comey the day the statute of limitations was about to expire.
It's too late.
It's too late to bring new charges.
Won't
I don't know
Trump
if that's
appeal
the case
this now to the Supreme
with Letitia James.
Will he be appealing this to the Supreme Court, Mr. Attorney?
Well, I assume, but I'm not. Again, I don't know if the Comey thing is appealable because the statute. I guess he can appeal the dismissal. I don't know what the answer.
I mean, that's what he does. He appeals everything to the Supreme Court. But this woman, I mean, you know what?
Elegant.
Yeah, she had a hell of a nerve.
Totally incompetent.
To go in.
You know what their response was over the weekend? Obviously, a Stephen Miller Trump tactic.
Yeah.
Rather than attacking the case of the defense, they attacked the judge. Which is put them in danger.
Thank God
Paulette,
for these judges. That's all I can say.
Exactly.
Paulette from Connecticut. Thank you for calling.
Paulette. Hello. That's a camel that someone gave me, by the way. That's a camel that is not me. That is a camel, a wooden camel that a friend of mine gave me.
Oh, that's very nice, Jim.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Paulette. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Am I on now?
That was on YouTube. The camel was on YouTube.
It was Marjorie's fault. Go
My
ahead,
fault.
Paulette.
Okay.
The camel was paranormal activity. Go ahead.
Apparently, it's important to say, listen to you all the time, first-time caller.
That is very important to say. Now you're accepted. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm responding to seeing a psychic.
Okay, please.
Many, many years ago, I had just left my first husband. That's a hint.
Yes.
And was living with a woman, expecting that I would be living with this woman for the rest of my life. Yeah. We went to a psychic, and she had to hold something of mine, so I gave her my keys. I had, no jewelry or anything, and she was holding my keys and looked at me, and she said, "Well, you just got divorced." Yeah, okay. Your ex-husband has $ for eyes. Well, she hit that one right on the head.
Oh.
And then she said to me, "You're going to get married again, and you're going to marry a sailor." At which point I burst out laughing because living in my area in northeastern Connecticut near the Groton sub base, if a gal went out with a sailor, it meant that she couldn't find any dates around her own hometown. She mustn't be very good.
And?
So I just laughed it off, And it wasn't until maybe my 5th or 6th anniversary that I remembered this conversation. I have now celebrated 43 years with my sailor.
Wow. Well, let me tell you. By the way, you told that story beautifully.
Paulette,
perfect drama.
that was very nice.
Build-up.
But could you not find any dates elsewhere? Was that what happened, or how did you wind up with the sailor?
That's a good question.
Actually, it was a computer dating.
Oh, computer
dating. On the computer. Right, I was still living
computer
with this woman.
43 years ago?
Yep.
No.
Yep. It was called No, I wasn't on the computer. It was a computer dating service.
Yeah.
It was called Together.
Okay.
It was called Together. I was working as a director of nurses in a facility, and my secretary had long been widowed.
Oh, well, that explains it.
And I told her, I said, oh,
Yeah.
you could go to a dating service. And she said, oh, no, they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to this dating service and show her that it works.
And you
There
did.
you go.
My second date.
43 years worth of
43
works.
years with the sailor.
That is a moving
43.
story,
Yep.
actually.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
one. Paulette, there you go. You see, she had an successful experience at the psychic.
Thanks.
James.
You told that story great, Paulette. Call
She
us
did.
again sometime.
Okay, we are out of time here now. But coming up after the 1 o'clock news, we're going to talk with the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. They are back for another edition of All Rev'd Up. We're going to talk about better late than never. The Catholic bishops actually speak out against Trump's immigration cruelty, and why do people keep buying Bibles if everybody's less religious than ever. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Silograms, a Massachusetts-based maker of custom silicone products, from monogrammed ice cube trays to personalized wine stoppers and pet products. Their line of holiday gift options is available online at silograms.com. And Classic Harbor Line, offering classic yacht cruises throughout the holiday season in Boston and New York City, including Coco and Carol's, live jazz, and holiday brunch cruises. More at classicharborline.com. And Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering teen and adult recreational cooking and baking workshops, series, and cooking couples classes for culinary enthusiasts. CambridgeCulinary.com. And the Bach Center, presenting the 25th Annual Anthony Williams Urban Nutcracker, a holiday classic with a blend of classical and modern dance, at the Bach Center Schubert Theater, December 13th through the 21st. Tickets at bachcenter.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 3 of VPR. We're checking on all things moral and spiritual with the Revs, Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. We'll discuss the Catholic Church standing up to Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani, the first Muslim and South Asian mayor-elect in New York City.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then nearly one-third of Americans say they've personally encountered a spirit or an unseen force. And more than a third believe a loved one has communicated with them from the great beyond. Forget the CDC, people are consulting shamans, vet psychics, and energy clearers. So tell us, have you ever hired one? All next, BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The indictments against two of President Trump's most prominent critics, former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, are being dismissed. Today, a federal judge found that Lindsay Halligan, the acting U.S. attorney who secured indictments against them, was unlawfully appointed. The cases were dismissed without prejudice, meaning the Justice Department may be able to bring those cases again. President Trump selected his former personal lawyer to serve as acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia after he pushed out the previous top prosecutor who had expressed doubts about bringing charges against both Comey and James. The Pentagon says it is investigating Senator Mark Kelly for possible military law violations. The former astronaut had recently joined a group of congressional Democrats who also had military or intelligence backgrounds to tell U.S. service members they do not have to follow illegal orders. But President Trump viewed their message as a call to defy him as commander-in-chief and call them traitors. The president touted big progress on peace talks to end the war on Ukraine ahead of a Thanksgiving deadline, but NPR's Frank Ordonez reports Trump is also cautioning his supporters to not believe it until you see it.
President Trump said, quote, "Something good just may be happening," in a social media post this morning after receiving a report on the weekend talks in Geneva. A joint statement between the U.S. and Ukraine was released, stating that the original 28-point plan had been updated and refined. Both the United States and Ukraine say more work is needed and express cautious optimism about the direction. The early version included several measures that Ukraine has repeatedly rejected, including giving up territory it controls, shrinking its military, and ruling out NATO membership. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
Former NBA players Chauncey Billings and Damon Jones were scheduled to be arraigned today on gambling charges that prosecutors say involved the mafia. NPR's Quill Lawrence has the latest from New York.
Federal investigators claim it's one of the most brazen corruption schemes since online betting became widely legal in the United States. Among the dozens indicted last month are Portland Trail Blazers coach and Basketball Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups, the Miami Heat's Terry Rozier, and former Cleveland Cavalier player and assistant coach Damon Jones. The FBI alleges they took part in sports betting and rigging high-stakes poker games with help from the Cosa Nostra crime families. Some of the alleged fraud involved confidential information about players' injury status and bets on small details like when a player would leave a game, which allowed gamblers in the know to make millions. All three men have denied any wrongdoing. Quill Lawrence, NPR News, New York.
U.S. stocks are trading higher this hour. The Dow is up nearly 300 points. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Just to reiterate NPR's top story, a federal judge has dismissed the criminal case against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. He concluded that the prosecutor who brought the charges was illegally appointed by the Justice Department. Locally, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, along with representatives from the Office of Neighborhood Services and the Office of Cultural Affairs, joined other community partners this morning to distribute turkeys to older adults at the Nuevo Dia Senior Center in Jamaica Plain. Wu told the crowd that it takes many people on many levels to keep the city running smoothly, and she praised those who've been taking care of our elderly.
We know that it's going to take each and every one of us working as hard as we possibly can to keep moving the city forward. That's what we've always done as a city, and that's what we will do following your example. So happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays to everyone.
According to its webpage, Nuevo Dia offers a warm and secure environment for seniors that's both safe and enjoyable. And if you or someone you know is a Boston SNAP recipient, you can get 50% off fresh vegetables and fruits with the Double Up Food Bucks program at participating grocery stores. Boston.gov says no sign-up is necessary. You can just use your EBT card. Many retailers, including Amazon, Walmart, and Stop & Shop, accept SNAP for online orders. You can also use Instacart with your EBT card at participating stores. 47 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Gates and Browdy, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 3 at Boston Public Radio. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We will be at the Boston Public Library tomorrow and Wednesday. We won't be there Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, and on Friday I think they're doing a rerun because we have the day off, or maybe they got something else.
We call those best of. We do not call them reruns. Thank you.
Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. It's time now for All Rev'd Up on BPR with the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. Irene is a syndicated religion columnist. I needed new headphones, people, while I'm doing this. I can't hear myself, if you don't mind, please. Irene is a syndicated religion columnist and Boston Voice for Detour's African American Heritage Trail and a steward of St. Augustine's African Orthodox Church in Cambridge, the last remaining Garvey Church of Greater Boston. Emmett's a founding pastor of the Community of Love Christian Fellowship in Allston and the inaugural dean of Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music. Welcome to you both. Hi.
Thanks for having us back.
Hi, thank you both for joining us. So let's start with Zoran Mandami, the about to be sworn in as the first Muslim and South Asian mayor in New York City. There's been a lot of, criticism toward him from the Jewish community. He didn't get a huge Jewish vote in New York, but he's also going to be the first Muslim mayor. He's going to reach out to the Jewish community, he says. So, do you think this matters? There's a lot of anti-Semitism. There's also a lot of Islamophobia in the United States. So, you think this is going to matter? What do you think? He's a charming guy. Everybody says charm the president, apparently. What do you think?
I think that what he did down at the White House shows that he is willing to build bridges and to engage in difficult conversations and to be, from his own standpoint, honest about his own beliefs and his own convictions. I mean, to go to the White House and stand or sit or whatever, eye to eye with President Trump and to have a conversation that engaged whether Trump was fascist or not, and not to shirk that.
That's right.
To actually engage it full head on.
Yeah,
so I like this guy because regardless of whether I agree with him or don't agree with him, what matters is that he's there for the people of New York City, and I believe he'll do that.
Irene, before you respond, you got to give Trump like a mini point here. When the reporter said, do you still think he's a fascist? And he's about to answer and you don't know what he's going to say. Trump says, no, it's fine. You can call me a fascist. I don't care. I'm sorry, Irene.
I mean, because he was standing, Trump was at the Resolute desk and Mandani was right there. And he said, look, don't even engage this. He said, and he did. And the point about it is it points to a couple of things. One of which that Trump knows how he traffics in media. But when I look at Mandani, that ascendancy to a New York City mayor, and I need to say I no longer live in the city, but I would have voted for him too. He went from scapegoat to city hall. He's very much like Obama because he meets the people where they are. And what I love about him, he's not only charismatic, but he had a rapid political rise. He has this grassroots appeal, and of course, mastery of the media. But the theme is that was certainly cross all aisles was affordability. He turned out young voters. He went out at night and got taxi drivers and Uber drivers to vote for him. And he certainly turned out the Asian and Southeast Asian voting bloc, which I think is marvelous. But I need to say this. I was very disappointed with my homeboy, Eric Adams, because he, I was in the city when, David Dinkins was the first mayor. So he was really handed a wonderful, platform to continue that legacy. And he just desecrated it.
Can I add one thing to this discussion, which is a different direction from which you guys took it? Is there is a lot of Islamophobia. Well, let me first address the anti-Semitism thing. I thought Mamdani spoke beautifully the day after he was elected. Here's a little bit of what he had to say addressing the issue of anti-Semitism, which was an issue in the race. Here it is.
Last night in my speech, I spoke about how my city hall will stand steadfast with Jewish New Yorkers in fighting the scourge of anti-Semitism across the city and making that clear in the actions that we deliver on from January 1st. And I look forward to working with Jewish leaders across this city, whether they be elected officials, whether they be rabbis, whether they be community leaders, to deliver on the promise of not just protecting Jewish New Yorkers, but celebrating and cherishing them in this same city.
Obviously, he's got to walk the walk, too. I thought it was really important he say that the next day. But on the Muslim front, I would bet that most people who are, I don't mean Islamophobes because they're haters, but Islamophobes because they're anxious. They don't really know enough. You want to make an analogy, too? I hope not everybody's going to bristle. We had the conversation with Sue O'Connell about 1,000 times about a poll 20 years ago that showed the only people who were pro same-sex marriage were young people and the people who said they knew a lesbian or gay person. I would bet you the vast majority of people who are nervous around Muslims probably don't even know they know one, that there's a coworker. The fact that this guy is going to be one of the highest profile people in America and is as charming as, and I mean that in the best sense, the word charming is often a disparaging kind of thing. I happen to support a lot of his positions as well, Irene. I think it's really important in terms of that Islamophobia that exists in the hearts of people who, as I say, are not hardcore haters. You know, you're nodding, Emmett. So this is not a naive view on my part.
No, it's not naive at all, because we've had this conversation thousands of times here too, that within Christianity, there are so many streams and differences of opinions and approaches and nuances. And the same thing within Islam, same thing within Judaism, right? So I think this gives an opportunity for this elected mayor to be able to present himself in a way where he does not just get kind of thrown out as a Muslim, but he gets to share his, his beliefs, his approach, his nuances to Islam that will certainly open up the minds and the hearts to other people.
But he disrupts a whole bunch of things. I mean, first of all, I think as New Yorkers, we come late to electing a Muslim out front elected official here, because London has certainly done that. That's number one. My other point is that we got to understand, when we think about Muslims, we only think about people coming from a particular country, but we have to realize that the religion Islam did not come here through these folks migrating here. It came here through the slave trade, because Black people are also Muslims. The other thing that he does, he disrupts the paradigm of this whole notion that in order to get elected, when we talked about religious electability, we made this assumption around Christianity. But he certainly said, he proved that you can be a devout Muslim and also get elected. And I say this in particular, and I do wonder about anti-Semitism, because Lieberman, back in the day, many folks may not remember when he was
Al Gore's vice presidential
he was a very devout Jewish
Orthodox.
Thank you. That's right. That's exactly right. And I had always wondered, was America, really, our good Christians who love Jesus, were they ready for Lieberman? Because he had some very good points. And so it talks about how a younger demographic group who grew up around more diversity, as well as not using religion to judge someone, had a profound influence in this young man being elected. But he reminded me a lot of Obama. He really did.
Let me just say one last thing, since you both seem to agree, and I was glad to hear that. The reason I am even more convinced that he'll be able to fulfill this role is he has not shied away from his religion at all. He hasn't worn it on his sleeve kind of thing to the point where you feel creepy and, oh my God, who's he responding to, his religious leaders or his constituents? That wasn't the issue. But he never shied away in an attempt to get elected from the fact that he was a Muslim in the most, I think the heaviest concentration of Muslims, I think 350,000 or something in New York City.
Yeah.
In any case,
well, my friends say this, though.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sure.
My friend who are Muslim says he's Muslim light in this way. He said that if he was wearing a particular kind of garb, or his wife was dressed a certain type of way, it does raise the question, would America be willing to vote for him? But because he looks so much like everybody else, that worked in his favor.
Well, let me just say the hopeful sign of that is a lot of his critics did show photographs, I don't know about his wife, but of him in more non-traditional Western garb.
But that was more used to denigrate him.
Exactly. No, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is his wife Muslim? I don't even know. I don't know what she is.
Yeah, and she's gorgeous.
Yeah.
That she isn't. You said it, she is.
And don't forget, a lot of people think Al Gore won that race. Don't forget.
Well, yeah.
It's stolen from the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on to your favorites, Irene, the United States bishops. It took better late than never, and I think with the new Pope Leo kind of leading the way, the Catholic bishops made this ad. I've never seen this before, where they talked about an end to the dehumanizing rhetoric and violence of the mass deportation in the immigration battle. They talked about the climate of fear created by Trump's policies. They complained about profiling vulnerable citizens, the horrible conditions in detention centers, and that they wouldn't allow ministers and priests into these centers to administer sacraments and stuff like that. I was kind of stunned. I mean, they weren't exactly the most charismatic group in the commercial, but I was surprised. What'd you think?
That God works in mysterious ways here.
Yeah.
So So, I mean, and I thought what was wonderful that they were upholding one of the church's tenets, which is liberation theology, preferential treatment, to the poor. But I think what I like about this is that with the Catholic Church, which is a huge voting bloc for Donald Trump, with Pope Leo really speaking out against Trump, I'm hoping that it'll change the tide. In the meantime, though, what I've been part of, like a lot of, ministers have been a part of, is know your rights training here. And what we try to do is not only sort of educate our congregation and community, but we're trying to, de-escalate. So we do things like this. We have a rapid response team. We have blowing a whistle to alert people that they're in the area. Even our church service, like what we're doing is that some things are regular that people think they know, like Wednesday Bible study. We change that, so that's different times during the week. We also change worship at different times during the week. So we're working with Pope Leo in many ways.
Emmett, what was your reaction to this? By the way, can I ask a question before you? Timothy Dolan, who obviously is in love with Trump.
Horrible.
Did he sign on to? He's the New York bishop. Did he sign on to all this?
I don't know that he signed on. I don't know anybody actually signed on, but I think a bunch of these bishops got together and decided they needed to do this because a lot of Latinos are Catholic.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, Emmett. What was
your reaction? A lot of the immigrants that coming in are also Catholic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, and for voting citizens, President Trump had 55% of the Catholic vote.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very important. As we see the split within the Republican Party right now, even with the resignation of Marjorie, Taylor Greene, whatnot, the reality is that people are watching and they're discouraged by what they're seeing. And there's an implicit kind of guilt because they voted for this. And so it's very important for the Catholic Church, and particularly the bishops, the leaders, to come out and say that we are not for X, Y, and Z. Right. We are actually for A, B, C.
Yeah. I don't think they have guilt. This is more like, I'm caught. I don't think it's any, because my point is that if your heart was really there, it would have been there. But what I like is, and this is where the Catholic Church becomes political, because I think Leo knows how, if he talks to this particular religious demographic group, that will certainly upset his not only popularity, but also the folks who go down the line in terms of when you go into the voting booth. You know how you vote down the line? Yeah, so I think it's just a course correction and a paradigm shift in a profound way. But speaking about mysteries here, my Thanksgiving prayer is that not only has Marjorie Taylor Greene left, Liz Cheney has left. I'm just counting them off now, all the sort of diehards.
Well, you know what I think? There's the social justice types, and then there's the right-wingers. And a lot of these bishops were like the right-wingers, and they're kind of hiding behind abortion. Oh, abortion is so terrible. And as Leo pointed out, well, you can't talk about being pro-life and then think it's okay to drag mothers and babies from each other's arms enforcing immigration. So he talked about what Joan Chittister, that great nun who's going to be close to 90 by now, has talked about for 30 years. It is seamless. It's seamless from before birth.
But he's a younger Pope, Marjorie. He's a younger Pope.
Well, he's also from Chicago.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. This is a guy that plays my game, Wordle. I mean, how can I...
Speaking of that, it's funny you said that. I assumed, since you really scrutinized the papacy with a critical eye, that you were probably really upset, Irene, when you read that he changes his lead word every single day in Wordle.
I love it.
That's outrageous, don't you think? I mean...
I love it. He probably, what I also like is that his brother, I kind of liked his relationship with his brother.
Explain this. Explain it.
Yeah, because the brothers say that they get on, they do it, and then they compare scores.
Every day.
That's right, which shows how human he is.
Totally
how
right.
connected he is to the current trend of this particular time.
Okay.
And my question is this to both of you, because I don't know if Emmett plays here. So I've done it in 3 moves. How many moves have you done it?
The fastest I've ever done it?
I think I did it once.
I think the fastest I've done it in 3. But I want to know what your words are. I have 2 words that I use.
What are yours?
Mine are tears and adieu. Because tears has very common letters in it, right? The vowels.
Right.
And then adieu takes care of the A,
That's right.
E and U. So that's now. What are your words, Irene?
Well, I use ample. The reason why I use
ample.
that,
Okay.
Yeah, I use ample because I got to put some content in, so they'll tell me so like I had one word that didn't have an E in it,
That's
so
hard.
It's like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And the word was shard. The word actually was shard, but it told me, that, okay, where things are. But the best I've done is 3, but I've known some people who've done it in 2. So Jim, you're the wordsmith.
Yeah. My lead word is browdy, and I squeeze the D and the E into one block.
Okay.
It's really
okay.
How about you, Emmett?
I haven't made it to that place. In my journey
come
yet.
on.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But it's kind of like my reward at the end of the day. If I've gotten everything done, I do Wordle and I do the mini crossword because that's really easy. You can get it done really fast.
Listen, it's a dopamine
It
high.
It is a dopamine high.
And it's and it's instead of my 6th cup of coffee for the day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes you feel like I don't know. It's fun.
Reward.
I guess it's fun.
Reward.
Yeah, it's
That's
fun.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so where are we going after this? We're going to talk about New Bedford. This is really upsetting because New Bedford is a heavily immigrant town. A lot of Portuguese people down there, and they're talking about people's fear to come out of their house.
A lot of the
go
religious
to
leaders are saying they're not coming to church, they're not going to work, they're not sending their kids to school, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
this is really frightening because I have listened to young children who are now responsible for going to grab the groceries, who are responsible for taking their younger siblings to school and pick them up from school, and who are responsible for taking messages from one household to another to deliver messages amongst their family and friends.
Yeah.
And this type of living does not sound like what we should be doing in the 21st century in the United States of America anywhere.
Yeah, but we're doing the village point sort of model here. One is that folks are not going to their jobs, their appointments, folks are not going to school, and of course not to the grocery store. So what we do is that, so if we have to pick up, if a kid is normally picked up by a parent or bigger brother, because we now know they will pick up children as well, and if you look a certain way. And so what we do is, again, as I said, we got a whistle. We got this rapid, response team. We will say we at this time are going to pick up such and such. We walk the streets.
Have you seen a lot of this in Cambridge, Irene?
Yeah, because we you know what? It's interesting because it does trouble me. We do have a viable Caribbean community, some who are Haitian. That's the largest community here. We have Cambodians. We have a large community of immigrants let me say this, for Cambridge.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it's very, very real. It's very, very real here. So we folks who are kind of known in the community, we walk the streets. We come and get those kids.
I have to say, we've said this on the air before, but I don't know if I've said it to you too. One of the most heartening things about the public response to the cruelty of Donald Trump, I was afraid that he could continue to scam his way through, the worst or first kind of thing forever and continue to delude people into believing that he was only sending violent criminals home. But when you read the numbers, it really is heartening that people care about other human beings in numbers. And maybe it takes a mother having her face smashed into the pavement, which it shouldn't have to do. But I think on balance, the American people have done the right thing.
Those detention centers, my God, people are denied their medication. I know this from folks reporting to us. Of course, spiritual care, it's unsanitary. Their conditions are overcrowded. They have inadequate food. I can't tell you the news that we constantly get about folks we know. I got to just tell you this quick story. So when our house was being renovated, which you all know.
That's right.
You know about it too much. Go ahead.
Right. The work crew, some of the work crew. So the work crew, a lot of them were Spanish speaking. So what happened was they came out to where the work crew was recently. They picked up one who I just bonded with from Venezuela, and then they also picked up one from Puerto Rico. We had to tell him Puerto Rico is part of the United States.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say I'm not surprised. One last thing, kind of an interesting. We talk a lot about how people are less and less religious, but apparently Bible sales are growing up. But I thought if you're into like poetry, I mean, even if you're not religious,
literature.
Yeah, there's a lot of
You
great.
really think that's what explains it?
I don't know.
It's
I don't
beautiful
know.
literature.
There is.
It is. I had downloaded the Bible because I wanted to hear James Earl Jones read it to me.
Oh, which would be great.
And the lyricism of it.
Emmett, how do you explain the disconnect, for lack of a better expression?
Emmett, in the most humorous sense, those folks who are my generation and perhaps older, it was a source of joy to have a Bible that was marked up, highlighted, duct taped, and to show that it was used.
Yeah.
But I think younger generations really want to have a nice, pristine, new looking, gorgeous, with a great cover on it. And so I think that, and then I think also the whole Charlie Kirk phenomenon, let's not miss on that, and the various mom influencers within evangelical.
30 seconds, Irene.
The Trump Bible. Okay, let's think about that here. I think that had something to do with mass appeal here. I mean, because it had the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Declaration. But we got to also thank the Gideon mass appeal here. But we are not to get away from its enduring significance.
Yeah, and if you're really depressed, the Psalms are really, you can be. Oh, yeah. I think they're great for people that are dealing with hardship.
And the Gideons. Let's not forget about the Gideons. The Gideons now give you a Holy Bible as well as a Mormon Bible. They do the mass appeal. They're in every hotel room. They're in supermarkets. They're now even in drugstores.
Do you know, by the way, we got to go, but do you know that when you order the Trump Bible, it comes upside down? I don't know if you're aware of that.
It seems apropos.
And then there's the sexy Song of Songs.
See you guys.
That's pretty sexy stuff there.
A pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
He likes 2 Corinthians, not second, but 2 Corinthians.
Okay. We have been speaking with Irene Monroe and Emmett Price. Irene, I have lost my page here.
I know who Irene is. I think people know who they are.
Can you do it real quick?
I can't, but I think we want to thank both the Revs for being with us today.
All right. I'm sorry.
You know who's coming next? You don't know that either.
Yes. Up next, after a quick break, we're going to talk with Giselle Byrd, Executive Director of the Theater Offensive Production Group and the first Black trans woman appointed to the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. She has faced a barrage of hateful attacks and death threats since her appointment, and she's willing to talk to us about that. Up next, I'm Marjorie Egan, Eastern Browdy. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Caring for a parent can be difficult, and for millennials, it comes with unique challenges.
A lot of us came of age and entered the workforce during major economic crises, and you add on the costs of caregiving, that sets up an entirely different economic catastrophe.
I'm Juana Summers, millennial caregivers who are also trying to build their own lives, on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Mass General Brigham Health Plan, providing helpful digital tools, world-class providers, and coverage that help you live in the moment. More at massgeneralbrighamhealthplan.org. And Minus 33 Merino Wool in Ashland, New Hampshire. Since 1916, makers of all-natural merino wool underwear, outerwear, and New Hampshire-made socks. Their merino wool clothing and accessories are available at minus33.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Live at the library tomorrow and Wednesday. Obviously, we're off Thursday and Friday. We hope you are too. Joined now on Zoom by Giselle Byrd, the first Black trans woman to lead a regional theater company in the United States with Boston's Theater Offensive. She also serves on Governor Healey's commission on the status of women, which brought out, well, we'll talk about the reaction, some of which was grotesque in the last handful of days. Giselle, it's good to have you back. Nice to see you again.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's great to be back. Hi, Marjorie.
Hi. Thank you, Giselle, for joining us. So, my understanding is when you were first appointed to the Mass Women's Commission, you should explain what that is, there was no uproar. This started later. So tell us about the commission, what it does, and your beginnings there, which I think were uneventful, I think.
Absolutely. So the Mass Commission on the Status of Women is an independent state agency. It began in 1998. It's composed at the state level of 19 commissioners who are working to advance the rights and protections for women and girls all across the Commonwealth. And that means of all women and girls across the Commonwealth. And then they are supplemented by many regional commissioners throughout Massachusetts.
So you're one of 19, and you're a volunteer, as I understand it, too.
That is
right?
correct.
Yep.
It is unpaid.
And while you're not the first trans person to be on the commission, you're the first black trans person on the commission. Charlie Baker appointed a trans person during his term as well, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so as Marjorie said, I think it's true that the initial phase of your service was pretty uneventful, and then I don't even want to mention the name of it. A couple of right-wing hate-mongering websites, followed up by Megyn Kelly, who doesn't think it's a problem. Epstein and his friends forcing violent sex on 15-year-olds, started talking about this and criticizing the decision of Governor Healy and you. What did that lead to, and what did you have to experience after that, Giselle?
Yeah, so it began late Friday evening, November 14th. I was receiving random sort of hate speech on my social media, which, every now and then that happens. But then Saturday, I noticed there was an influx of more. And when I woke up Sunday morning, I said, well, let me just Google myself. Maybe there's been some type of press article that's gone out. And that's when I discovered that a lot of right-wing media had picked up my appointment, which, I was sworn in back in April and had been serving and working on the commission. And, that's when I was told by a dear mentor that I was in deep crisis and that this was a problem. There were death threats made in response. One in particular said, "Nothing a rope in a tree can't fix." Another was the meme that said, "If she dies, she dies." There was the Chat GPT of X, formerly known as Twitter, which people were using to figure out things about my birth name, my family, my employer. And the hate speech started fueling my social media inboxes. Thankfully, no one physically got to me, but it became a nightmare to walk through right on the onset as we were going into commemorating Trans Day of Remembrance, where I was the co-chair for the city of Boston this year.
So what do you do when this happens? I mean, did you reach out to I mean, I would be petrified.
Yeah. I reached out to a dear mentor, former Commissioner Danella Clark, whose seat I now sit in on the Women's Commission. She immediately connected me with a beautiful array of folks, from PR to security. And, once they all assembled, they really gave me the tools and resources that I needed to make it through this week and beyond.
By the way, I just want to, I'm sorry to even say her name, but I think it's important to say, to show what kind of a fraud Megyn Kelly is and how she's just fitting the time with people like Trump and Hegseth providing the lead on hate against trans people. Megyn Kelly did a show a bunch of years ago with a young trans kid.
Yep.
And the trans kid's parents, and was celebrating the beauty of the family. All of a sudden, she does a 180 because the boss, again, Trump and Hegseth, decide what's in vogue is to create pain in the minds of some of the most vulnerable people. So after this happened, by the way, the good news is your colleagues on the Women's Commission were wonderful and put out beautiful statements. In retrospect, do you regret having taken this appointment, Giselle?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Absolutely not. I was raised by strong Black women, women who had survived the Jim Crow South, who had survived segregation in schools and overcome so much. And to me, joining this commission, being appointed by Governor Healy, was an opportunity to not only carry their legacy, but also to advance their rights and protections as well. I have a 9-year-old niece. I have a sister, chosen sisters, women who have helped make me the woman that I am today. And I've often seen them so violently be denied their basic human rights. And so when I was appointed, I said, this is my opportunity, to just continue advocating and fighting for them and making sure that they have a safe and secure future to lead an abundant life, which they deserve.
Giselle, you mentioned that this started about the 14th. Is it still going on, or has it diminished somewhat?
It has diminished, thankfully.
Good.
There's still people finding this news out and wanting to put out stories and a lot of false rhetoric. But what I have to do is focus on the work, that there is change that needs to happen. And, in my role at the Theater Offensive from an arts and cultural space, earlier this year, we sued the National Endowment for the Arts around their implementation of the Gender Ideology Executive Order 14168. But then at the same time, I have to protect my sisters across this Commonwealth who are losing access in so many different ways. So
you're unbelievable, by the way. I mean, and coming on and talking about it, you deserve huge praise. We met you when I think you were on with Amari Paris Jeffries.
Yes.
And you were talking about the Theater Offensive. Talk about your day job for a minute, because it's great, and I fear some people may not know about it. Tell us about the Theater Offensive.
Absolutely. So the Theater Offensive started in 1989, arising out of the HIV/AIDS crisis. And so we are a theater company dedicated to queer, presenting them with, the opportunities to share liberating art by, for, and about them. We also have the longest running LGBTQIA2S+ youth theater program in the country, known as True Colors. And we just closed a world premiere reading entitled Where the Black Boys Are at the BCA Black Box on Friday, which the production will be forthcoming. But we have been really hitting the ground running, making sure that queer and trans artists, especially those of color, have the tools and resources that they need to live and thrive in a time when this world seems to not want that to be so. And with my role on the commission and with my work with Boston City Council, I make sure that not only do our artists have the means to make their art, but also at the core of their humanity, providing them with the services that they need. And so to me, it's part of a greater ecosystem that we always have to be reminded of. We can't just stay in one lane and hope that that helps everyone. And so at the Theater Offensive, we really firmly believe in that mission of taking care of both our artists and our audiences, making sure that they have everything they need in order to be in fellowship with us.
What's the website of the Theater Offensive? People want to check it out.
thetheateroffensive.org.
Great. It's wonderful to see you again, and you're a strong soul, and I'm glad you're there. We're both glad you're on the commission, and stay in touch with us. It was really good of you to come today.
Absolutely. It's great to see y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Giselle, very much. I'm sorry you've had to go through this. We have been speaking with Giselle Byrd, Executive Director of the Theater Offensive and a member of Governor Healy's Commission on the Status of Women. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, we're going to be talking with the great singer, songwriter, folk singer, blues singer, Tom Rush. He's just been inducted into the Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame with a bunch of really other famous people. He's going to be with us in just a second. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Ready. Welcome back to BPR, Jim Browder and Marjorie again. I don't know if I have to say welcome back to BPR when it's just a little music thing, but I will anyway. Streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're not at the we are at the library tomorrow and Wednesday. We're not at the library Thursday and Friday. Joined now on Zoom by Tom Rush, legendary, and he is legendary, folk and blues singer who was just recently announced in the class of inductees, I think it's proper language, for 2026 into Boston's Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame with some other really big names he'll share with us. Tom Rush, congratulations and great to see you. How are you?
I'm living the dream, Jim. Thanks. My daughter Sienna sends love to both of you.
Oh, yeah, she was an intern here for quite a while.
And
she was great.
One of the greats
she was great.
ever. I want to tell the story, even though this has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Was Sienna in high school when we had her here? I think we violated every rule. She was in high school, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, we'd go to the newsroom, and this high school kid would essentially be leading the discussion during breaks in the day of these jaded 50 and 60-year-old people injecting this level of life. You should follow her lead, Mr. Rush, and try to do a little of that. Say hi to her. We miss her. Congratulations, Tom. Share with us, who are your fellow inductees?
Yeah, heavy hitter cast here.
March is the formal induction. Who's on that list?
Well, there's a bunch of people. Judy Collins is one. I just did 4 shows in California with Judy, and she sings as great as ever. Jackson Brown.
Yeah.
Neil Young is
I've heard of him, yeah.
We've heard of him, yep.
Tom Paxton.
Paxton is there, yeah. My old buddy Tom.
Speaking of
the late great Leonard Cohen.
Well, I'm talking about the living people. They're honoring some incredible people.
That's right. And Aretha Franklin.
Who have passed on too. Didn't you and Jackson Brown, didn't you used to engage in questionable activities from time to time? You tell me off the air. I can't remember. Is that true, or did I make that up?
No, you're making it up.
Raise your right hand and say it's not true.
Exactly. Come on.
Depending on which illicit activities you're talking about.
Well, I think they were 2 young men, single men.
2 good-looking
men. I told you before, I had the picture of you in your album with all the hair. That was on the wall in my room with Sally Waterman.
Story.
Yeah. So you and Jackson Brown, I'm sure there were a couple of ladies that might have been interested in you, Tom Rush. What do you think?
Well, it could have happened, I suppose.
Could have happened, yeah.
But who would remember? You've won. I don't know how you feel about this. I've known you a long time, and I've said this every time Tom is on. He's become a very good friend of Marjorie and mine, and we love his kid. And when I was younger, the singer that I idolized was the young Tom Rush, and then we were lucky enough to meet him a couple of decades ago, and the rest is history. You've been winning all these lifetime achievement awards kind of thing. You won this New Hampshire, you're born in New Hampshire, by the way. You were this, I hope I pronounced it right, Lottie Jacoby Living Treasure Award, given you by Governor Ayotte in New Hampshire. Of course, that was right after she eliminated 90% of the funding from the Arts Council.
The funding.
But there was enough funding to give the award. So do you get nervous when you win Lifetime Achievement Awards, a bunch, there are others too, right in a row? Doesn't that make you a little anxious?
Well, the thing is, I'm not done yet.
That's right.
I try to make that point. When I got the award from the governor of New Hampshire, there were a bunch of people getting awards, all very well deserved. And I was the last up, and everybody had a prepared speech, but I didn't.
How'd that go?
Never occurred to me. Well, the only thing I had to work with was that the governor had said about all of us, all of the recipients, that we were very talented and blah, 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 and humble. And so I got to get up there and say, well, I just want to make it clear that of all of us, I am by far the most humble.
But I'm bummed. Thank you.
That got a laugh, so it got me off the hook.
But you said you're not done yet. I mean, you've written a whole lot of new songs in the last few years. I mean, you're not. It's not just what you were doing when you were 22.
No, it's true that my latest album, I should say.
Yeah.
Last album might be misunderstood. My latest album, Gardens Old, Flowers New, is all songs that I wrote. I'm also really busy on stage. I've got 8 shows in 7 days coming up, starting on December.
Starting on what day? I looked them up. December 4th, 3rd?
December 4th is Thursday, and it's going to be in Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
And then we go to Massachusetts and New Hampshire and then down onto the Cape. Go to tomrush.com, folks.
Yeah, I saw 3 in a row in Katuitt down the Cape, right?
Yeah.
And then it's got one in Shirley, Massachusetts, a little bit of ways from here.
Yeah,
and then,
the Bullrun.
yeah.
Why do you wait? Let's not leave that yet. Why do you do 8 shows in 7 days? I'm serious. I mean, why do you do that?
I need the exercise.
No, I'm serious. I mean, it's great that you're. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom.
Well, but then I get a bunch of time off. Then I get like 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
I guess in the ideal world, I would like to do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, take the rest of the month off. It never works out that way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But you talk about these songs kind of floating around in the air. That's not exactly how you describe them, but when the new songs you've written, they're just sort of there, and you hear them, and then you write them. I mean, how's that work?
I don't know where they come from. My theory is that they already exist.
Yeah.
And they come floating through the room, and my job is to try to catch them before they float away again.
That's right.
But I don't write them. I capture them.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this song because we all, as we get older, start to forget everything. One of my favorite funny songs is just one about going to lunch and forgetting where you're going and what day you're going. It's absolutely a riot.
Well, thank you. I've got a new one that I'm trying out on the audiences. It's a different kind of love song called "It Takes a Whole Lot of Liquor to Like Her."
Yeah, well, that could be true when you're very young as well, Tom. Right?
Goes
that
both
might be
ways,
one of those
if
eternal.
you know what I mean, Tom. I understand.
Thanks.
By the way, we're talking to Tom Rush, who, along with some incredibly talented people, is going to be inducted in March into Boston's Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame. Could you sing a little something for us? Is that doable?
Well, my computer. Let me see if this works for you.
Okay.
You sing on your computer now?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't. The microphone hookup to my computer isn't working.
Oh.
We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then don't sing to us. I think that's a fair.
You tell me.
Okay. He's got his guitar.
This is the first Joni Mitchell song anybody ever recorded, and it was me.
Urge for Going, right?
Urge for Going.
One of the great songs ever. Tom Rush.
Oop.
We don't hear anything.
We don't hear anything. Are you muted?
Wait a second. I know why.
You're muted.
Original sound for musicians is off.
Oh, okay.
Let's turn.
Now I need to turn it on.
Turn it on.
Turn it on. Okay, see if this works.
Yes.
I woke up today and found the frost perched on the town. It hovered in a frozen sky, gobbled summer down. And when the sun turns traitor cold, and shivering trees are standing in a naked row, I get the urge for going, and I never seem to go. And I get the urge for going when the meadow grass is turning brown and summertime is falling down, winter closing in.
Oh my God.
Okay, so
Oh my God.
So
is that
what do you do?
beautiful?
What do you do for your voice? I mean, you're going to sing all these concerts. You're not 22. I mean, do you do honey lemon cough drops, or what do you do?
I don't do anything. It
You
just
don't?
seems it seems to be hanging in there. So far, so good.
Because you do sound great. I sound like I'm hearing myself talk.
Well, it's because he's got the thing with the computer. or
Okay.
whatever. That was
Okay.
totally beautiful. By the way, she didn't record Urge for Going for years after that. Am I right about that?
You're right. I think my version of it, she actually she criticized me. I got a line wrong. Naked trees are standing in a shivering row, and I think I sang shivering trees are standing in a naked row.
It's close enough. That's what I would say to Joni Mitchell if she asked me.
Okay, so we got all this. If people want to find out, they go to tomrush.org. You get all these shows coming up
starting December
around
4th.
here.
Portland, Maine,
yep.
Shirley, Massachusetts, Northampton, New London, New Hampshire, wherever the hell that is, and Barnstable, Massachusetts. Is that, I covered it, yes?
Yes. I think you're right. There's 3 shows in Barnstable and 2 shows in New London, New Hampshire, in one day.
Why did they cancel all the arts in New Hampshire? Kelly Ayotte doesn't like.
Well, don't make him criticize Kelly Ayotte after he just got an award from her.
She just gave you an award, but they knocked off 90% of the budget up there.
I have no idea. It was probably to make the rich people richer.
Thank you. So are you going to just keep doing this till you like have to get carried off the stage? I hope. Is this plan?
My 66th annual farewell tour, and I'm looking forward to the next 66.
Hardening. Speaking of 66, by the way,
yep.
We've had the people on from Club Passim a lot around the folk collective and stuff. It's got to be really hardening. You were a Harvard kid a century ago, doing a little Harvard radio show. You'd walk over to it wasn't called what was it 40? What was it called? Club 47. What was it called?
47. Yeah.
47. Before it became Passim, and play. How hardening has it got to be to you to find out that this folk thing is alive and explodingly well at the same club that gave you your start, Tom Rush?
Well, I love it. And now I own the name Club 47, and there's actually a scheme afoot to do something. Part of what I've made part of my career is introducing young talent. And I should mention that on these shows coming up in December, Matt Nakoa.
He's great.
Brilliant.
Great.
He is brilliant. Yeah, go ahead.
He'll be my accompanist in doing some songs on his own. But I've got this series on the Patreon platform called Rockport Sundays, where every Sunday morning, they stay up for 8 weeks. You can watch them whenever. I have a little 15-minute episode with me and a youngster, usually, where we chat a little bit and we each do a song. And some of these youngsters have been absolutely dazzling, as good as anybody I've ever heard. But I never heard of them.
Well, can I urge people to sign up for that? Because the beauty is it hits your inbox at midnight on Saturday. You wake up Sunday morning, groggy or whatever you are, and you get Tom Rush with another spectacular performer. It is great. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Apologies for failing to do it myself. Are you excited about this Roots thing? I mean, you should be. I can't tell if you are. Are you? Are you? You should.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that Jackson Browne and Neil Young come to it, because I haven't seen them in quite a while. I actually was doing a show in Santa Barbara a week or so ago and invited Jackson, but he said, no, I'm on a plane coming home from New York. He couldn't make it.
Aww.
Come to Boston.
Well, we're going to be there, so that's a start. Hey, Tom, congratulations. We always love talking to you. That was beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you,
song.
Tom.
See you soon.
I'll see you at one of the shows.
Yeah, come to whatever show you want, guys.
I am. I'll let you know. I'll let you know which one I'm coming to, but I'm definitely going to be there.
Say hi to the kid. We miss her. Take care of yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Tom Rush.
We have been speaking with Tom Rush, local guy, sort of. He's a New Hampshire guy, but close enough, and he went to Harvard and everything. He's a blues and folk singer, just inducted into Boston's Folk Americana Roots Hall of Fame.
Can I tell you, we've both been to his shows.
And the poster boy in my college dorm.
Well, and mine too, by the way. But let me just say, his shows are spectacular.
They are.
Beyond the music being beautiful, he's wildly funny.
He's very funny.
It's just they're a great kind of thing.
Okay, Edgar B. Hurt III.
Hey.
What's
Hello.
up? What's up?
I stand in awe of Tom Rush. I'm a huge Tom Rush fan. But here, living legend on your show today.
That's right. Do you want to happen? He really was my idol when I was a kid, and I used to go see his shows in the main line in Philadelphia, which you know about. One day I'm sitting at my desk up in the newsroom. I don't know how many years I've been here, 13 years, 40, whatever. I've answered my phone in the newsroom maybe twice ever. I don't know why. I pick it up, And I go, hi, it's Jim Browdy. And the other end of the voice, the other end of the line, hi, this is Tom Rush.
What a
and
moment.
It was like, he was looking for an internship for his kid.
Wow.
Who is spectacular. So it's great. So what are you doing there?
We got the culture show coming up.
I heard about that. Yeah,
so
2
we're
o'clock.
going to do some food stuff. We've got a conversation that Jared had with Chef Piet de Spain, Native American roots and Mexican roots in the heritage there, and a new cookbook that's kind of weaving all of that together. So that's going to be great. Let me ask you a question. If you needed to look a word up right now, would you go to a physical dictionary or would you go online?
Online.
My phone.
Yeah, I think that's how most of us do
Yeah.
it. But Merriam-Webster just released a new edition of the Collegiate Dictionary. It's the first one in a couple decades that they revised, and it's a physical addiction.
Yeah.
Addiction. It is a physical addiction and edition as well. So yeah, they have an actual new book out.
Yeah.
A new dictionary. We're going to talk with Peter Sokolowski. He's editor-at-large there at Merriam-Webster about that and why they did it and why it matters.
We love dictionaries, by the way. We've talked a lot about dictionaries.
Well, you want to have
on
a
the
nice
show.
big fat dictionary.
It's
in
so
here.
good, right?
It
Yeah.
is. It is hefty. You can load things on top of it. Very useful for
I
that.
don't think that's the point of the dictionary. You can stand on it.
There's
You
also
can't reach
words in
stuff
there.
on the top
Mark.
shelf.
There's
the word thing.
There's an entire
about
universe
the
of
word.
knowledge inside of there too. Yeah.
That's really good.
Okay,
Okay,
Edgar,
go
thank
through
you
the show.
very
You
All
have
right,
2
thank you,
minutes and
thank you.
30 seconds.
I'll run down the hallway.
Run down the
would.
hall. Edgar B. Hurt
Goodbye.
III, thank
That's
you
who
very
he
much.
is.
She's in for Jared. Thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined at the Boston Public Library. Actually, John King will be on Zoom. But the other people will be there. Boston Globe Ideas columnist Abdallah Fayad, Gold Dust Orphan Ryan Landry, and El Planetas Javier Marin on his new book, Live from America, How Latino TV Conquered.
Can I just say there's been a change during the show, so
There has?
people don't. Yeah, Ryan's joining us on Wednesday.
Oh.
For what it's worth, and
Sorry?
instead, Jim McGovern, who with Joe
from
Kennedy
walking across
is doing
Western
the walk
Mass.
through Western Massachusetts.
Yes. Oh,
for
that'll
food
be great.
programs and anti-hunger kind of
Okay,
thing.
so Ryan's on
Congressman's gonna join
Wednesday,
us, yeah.
Congressman's tomorrow
Yes.
with Joe Kennedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks to our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Additional support from Mira Donaldson. Thanks to Maddie Geyer for running today's live stream. John LaClaw Parker is our engineer, and our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Stay tuned to the Culture Show starting immediately after us, 89.7 GBH. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thanks again for tuning in. Hope you can tune in tomorrow and have a great day.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Direct Tire and Auto Service, offering a full range of services including brakes, shocks, diagnostics, and oil changes. Direct Tire and Auto Service, not just service, customer service. DirectTire.com. Chef Lydia Bastianich highlights communities coming together in times of need, including selfless acts that foster connection and fulfillment. Don't miss Lydia Celebrates America, tomorrow at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org.